Hello everybody. Denise in the chat. What's up, Denise, over on YouTube? Got Michael over there on the YouTube. Okay. Just getting some last second preparations ready. The text message is out. It turns out Wednesday is sort of seems to be a tough day for people, just in general, but also when it comes to catching the show. So we're going to send this text message out. If you're in the chat and you got the text message, if you could just say something about that, that would be nice. Just kind of double checking that that's all working properly. I don't think there's much to say up here up top. We got about 25 seconds. We got a great show today. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll take the opportunity to thank personally the people signing up for the Canary Cry T-shirt Council. We're making great progress towards our goal that will make that program sustainable and a quality opportunity to support the show and get some T-shirts. If you're out there and you like the podcast and you wear clothes, head on over to canarycrytshirtcouncil.com. That's canarycrytshirtcouncil.com. Sign up. It's a wonderful sort of lower price point than the supply drop. It's $19.84 per month, and we'll send you T-shirts every quarter, just like the supply drop. It's pretty awesome. And we got Canarians. I mean, what a better way to find other Canarians in your area than walking around town wearing your high-quality Canary Cry News Talk T-shirt. I'm excited about it. canarycrytshirtcouncil.com. And with that, I think we'll just get this show started.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy. You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is February 15th. And oh no, I dropped my keyboard right as we were starting the show.
Yeah, keyboard dropping. That's the big problem kids have these days.
Complete chaos. Complete chaos. But it is February 15th. We're live to tape on episode 591. Today, I don't even know the name of this episode. Oh no. Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil.
Episode 591. The episode is titled Eco Gorillas.
That's what it is.
Yes. I'm helping you out.
Yeah, right. Thank you. And, your turn.
My name is Gonz, formerly the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel, director of the Age of Deceit films, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, a.k.a. the Cabana Boy, live to tape from California to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. And today's emergent phenomena is dealing with it right now. Just dealing with your
turned into complete
situation.
chaos over here. Okay, there we go. I think I got it back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is that the thing? That's the phenomenon.
It's the phenomenon, and I got a shout out
to unidentified aerial emergent phenomenon.
Are we going to have an unidentified virtual phenomenon where people see virtual things and they're freaking out, and the whole generation is mind controlled?
Yeah, I think those are called memes. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Sorry about that rough start. It's nice when there's like a surprise rough start.
Yeah.
Because some rough starts are like, oh boy, this is going to be a rough one. This one really activated the fight or flight instincts. But we are here and we are fighting. We have decided to fight for this episode. Oh, man. Okay. Well, let's just get into it. Nice Wednesday show here. Let's hit that big old can of disclaimer, and then I'll give you a rundown.
It's time for a disclaimer.
Now listen up.
YouTube. That's right. And just for all the content moderators and censorship managers out there, be they robots or humans, everything you hear on this show comes directly from the mainstream corporate news media. We do not claim to be experts on healthcare, geopolitics, military strategy, corporate law, or the moral and ethical implications of any of these topics, nor do we implicitly or explicitly support or subscribe to any sources or narratives containing misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation, as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. We're good boys. All right, YouTube, we're good boys. That's right. And here's what to expect.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, look, here's Basil.
Let me bring you up to speed.
We are starting out with an opening salvo of Elon-related news. Don't worry, it's not about him tweeting or maintaining the ability to tweet, nothing like that. No, this has to do with the war in Ukraine and the new technocratic infrastructure of war. That is Elon. Then we'll be checking in with FLIPPY and Antarctica meeting once again to bring us into the future that is our sort of Antarctic descendants, homeland, with some very interesting background there. We will be, I apologize ahead of time, we will be talking about balloons. But don't worry, this is not the same balloon reports that you've been hearing all over the web. Turns out, as we continue to deconstruct the balloon narrative, it is starting to encompass some things that we've been looking at for many years now. So balloons, and then, of course, can't talk about balloons without talking about trains. And what do these things have to do with eco-guerrilla warfare? We will learn all of that in the first part. Second half of show, we'll be checking in with some DNA, human genome excuses. Gons is going to give us an Age of Deceit type breakdown of some of the news going on there. Then the Tower of Babel, the modern Tower of Babel, and how Wired thinks that the decentralization of Twitter is the best way to go. And then, of course, some Antarctica at the end of the show. All right, let's start off strong with our lead stories, Gons.
You are already sort of a cybernetic symbiote. Neural nets are taking over from regular programming. So you are connected.
You're connected, I'm connected, we're all supposed to be connected somehow in Elon's little happy world there. And he was at the World Government Summit, which is an annual event that takes place where they discuss world government.
It's kind of like a knockoff Davos or something.
Yeah, more of a Middle Eastern flavor to it. But this clip is obviously going viral. It's Elon zooming in or something to the World Government Summit and speaking like a peace, the king of peace.
One thing I should say, I know this is called the World Government Summit, but I think we should be maybe a little bit concerned about actually becoming too much of a single world government. If I may say, that we want to avoid creating a civilizational risk by having, frankly, this may sound a little odd, too much a cooperation between governments. Say like while Rome was falling, Islam was rising, and so you had like the sort of caliphate doing incredibly well while Rome was doing terribly, and that actually ended up being a source of preservation of knowledge and many scientific advancements. And so, so I think we want to be a little bit cautious about being too much of a single civilization, because if we are too much of a single civilization, then if the whole thing may collapse. I'm obviously not suggesting war or anything like that, but I think we want to be a little bit wary of actually cooperating too much. It sounds a little odd, but we want to have some amount of civilizational diversity such that if something does go wrong with some part of civilization, that the whole thing doesn't collapse, and humanity keeps moving forward.
So decentralization apparently is his big message there.
Well,
diversification of humanity.
Very interesting. It's quite on brand for Elon to show up to the World Government Forum and sort of try to throw a wet blanket on the idea of a world government. Of course, this fits into his sort of branding as a far-right extremist, fighting against the globalists.
Which is interesting because President Joe Biden sent out a tweet under the POTUS account, and he tagged Elon Musk and Tesla. He says, in building our EV charging network, we have to ensure that as many chargers work for as many drivers as possible. To that end, Elon Musk will open a big part of Tesla's network up to all drivers. That's a big deal, and it'll make a big difference. So Joe giving the stamp of approval to Elon and Tesla, being effectively the EV charging network winners right now, anyway, in the U.S.
It's very interesting considering the Biden administration's sort of taunting of Elon. Mm-hmm. What I expect happened here, talking about the SEC investigating his business dealings, excluding Tesla from the tax breaks on the recent, what was it? I can't remember. Whatever his newest, one of his newest bills gave big tax breaks for people who bought EVs, except if they were Tesla vehicles, which was it. So they've been having this little policy war for a little while now, and it seems like Biden may have successfully sort of wielded some leverage over Elon, or vice versa. I don't know exactly which way this goes.
It's likely that the military-industrial complex made some kind of deal where they're getting information, data, or money, and they're getting a cut. That's why they're able to endorse it. So otherwise, I don't think it would ever happen. So
So all of this sort of negative Elon PR when it comes to the Biden administration and the way that Tesla is being treated, and SpaceX, of course, seems to have sort of culminated in them making some sort of agreement, because this is some strange pro-Tesla, pro-Elon messaging coming from Biden, which is quite a turn.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Business Insider also had this headline: Elon Musk hit back at ex-NASA astronaut Scott Kelly, saying SpaceX's Starlink is supporting Ukraine but won't be used to start World War III. Again, he's the peacekeeper. He's not the warmonger, even though his technology is being used to fight a war on the ground. But this article states here, Elon Musk on Sunday lashed out at former NASA astronaut Scott Kelly over restrictions Starlink recently made in Ukraine, over worries their service could contribute to the war's escalation. SpaceX said in recent weeks that Ukraine can't use its Starlink internet service for military drones, such as to pilot drones, and has taken steps to prevent this, per Reuters. Kelly tagged Musk in a tweet on Saturday, asking him to, quote, restore the full functionality of SpaceX's Starlink internet satellite in Ukraine. Although SpaceX has limited Ukraine's ability to use Starlink for some military purposes, such as the drones Ukraine is believed to have used against Russian bases, the service appears to still be used for many military purposes as well as for commercial use. Quote, defense from a genocidal invasion is not an offensive capability. It's survival. Innocent lives will be lost. You can help, Kelly tweeted. We live in such a weird world. These are like movie lines coming at us from Twitterverse. You know, the ex-astronaut going at an oligarch technocrat. You know, it's just so weird. Musk told Kelly he was smart enough to, quote, not swallow media and other propaganda BS, end quote. He called Starlink the quote-unquote communication backbone of Ukraine, especially at the front lines, quote, but we will not enable escalation of conflict that may lead to World War III, Musk added. Then they get into some other details about it, and SpaceX, he said SpaceX was trying to do the right thing, but this was an, quote, extremely difficult moral question. The company has not confirmed how it has limited Ukraine's ability to use SpaceX for military purposes. There is this paragraph a little bit further down. Starlink's terms of service says that, quote, it's not designed or intended for use with or in offensive or defensive weaponry or other comparable end uses, end quote. The Ukrainian military has reportedly used Starlink for a variety of purposes like communications, feeds from drones, and targeting for long-range weapons like missiles.
Yeah, so they're using it for military purposes.
Yeah, but
this is hilarious.
They're saying they weren't piloting the drones, but they're getting feeds from drones. Okay.
Yeah, well,
it's a different way to
pilot
say
drones.
the same thing.
Yeah. Well, the funny part for me is Elon taking this moral stance. Ooh, what a moral dilemma. Ooh, the ethics of being involved in escalating this war with Starlink. Ooh, I don't know if I can do it. However, what he's not mentioning is that where Starlink is sort of the commercially available satellite internet from Elon, there is also something called Starshield, which was reported in December of 2022. SpaceX reveals Starshield satellite project for national security use. Now, Starshield is Starlink. It's just the version he wants to sell to governments to, I don't know, pilot drones, used to target artillery shells,
blow up balloons, do it all. It does it all the communications.
Yeah, so he puts it in this moral issue, like, I don't know about Starlink, guys, when really what he's doing is saying, hey, you're using it for military. I have another product that you should be using for your military. It's called Starshield. We don't have any more moral or ethical issues with selling you Starshield instead of letting you use Starlink for free. This is simply a sales tactic.
Yeah, like a little marketing plan here to make it seem like he's such a peacekeeper.
And good PR, though. He gets to take the role of the peacekeeper.
And do we know if Zelensky made a deal with Elon with Starshield? Or would we know? How would we know to begin with?
We probably would not know.
They probably wouldn't tell us, right? If it's
this was part of what Elon was trying to get the Pentagon to pay for. You know, as the whole Pentagon Elon tension was rising last year, right? And he says, "Okay, I've given you a lot of free internet. Time to start paying for it." I think that the Star Shield is what he was trying to get the American taxpayers to pay for using.
I mean, with the looks of it, it's literally just taking over NASA, kind of doing what NASA was doing, but more high tech. The three things they want to do: Earth observation, communication, and hosted payloads. That's kind of what NASA does in research and.
Yeah, but it's a private company. It's privatizing space, space operations or whatever. But yeah.
All right. Well.
Anything else?
I think that's it. A lot of Elon. He's the peace king, apparently, but also the underhanded military salesman.
Hey, he's staying true to the brand. Well, with that, guys, let's keep moving because we're not quite over the hump. It is Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday.
Hey guys, know what date it is? It's Wednesday. It's time for the Canary Cry News Sucker.
Wednesday, my dude. It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Yeah, it's Wednesday, and feeling like Wednesday, feeling good, but we are just trucking through the week. Any big updates, Gons?
No, other than I have some kind of weird infection on the tip of my left finger next to my nail. I don't know what's going on exactly. It's all swollen.
This is big
and
news.
Hurts. No, it's fine. I mean, I can still play the guitar, so I kind of just played through the pain, and I think it's de-swelling. Is that a thing?
No,
okay.
It's not a thing. Did you cut it or something,
No,
or is this from
got
shredding too hard?
I was. It kind of hurt after golf because I didn't wear a glove.
Golf injury.
But then, like 3 or 4 days later, is when it all puffed up. So I'm wondering if. But my dog kind of chewed on my finger too. I was thinking maybe that was the reason. But I don't know. I'm fine. That's it. What about you?
Options. No infections. That's good. That's wonderful. Did you do anything special for Valentine's Day? Any pagan rituals, fertility rituals, or
no, nothing to share.
Complain about how Valentine's Day is a product of capitalism.
Well, yeah, it's still giving flowers to the wife though. Just got to do that. Plus, got the kids.
Yeah. Did they bring Valentine's to preschool?
Yes. That
was always such a nerve-wracking thing for me.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I didn't like that at all. For those who might be, I don't know, not American listeners, during Valentine's Day, it is customary for children to bring Valentine's to their school, but you are required to give one to everybody. You can't just, give a Valentine's Day card to your crush. You got to bring like 30 of them for your entire school. And then it becomes sort of a contest. Who has the cooler pack of Valentines? Who's got the Pokemon branded Valentines? Who's got the, whatever. And I always forgot about this. So I was left, the night before, Mom, I'm supposed to bring Valentine's to school. And we run down to the whatever closest grocery store or gas station.
And buy apples for everybody. You're the apple kid?
You just get the bargain bin. The bargain bin Valentines. All the Pokemon Valentines were purchased. All the Power Rangers Valentines were purchased. There's nothing left. It was like the generic heart candy branded Valentines, which nobody likes, nobody cares about. It was just so stressful.
Yeah, thanks.
I remember one year.
Yeah, okay.
1 year, I forgot until the morning of.
Yeah.
So very quickly before school, I took some red paper and I folded it about 20 times and took some big scissors. Okay. And cut the shape of a heart. So boom, one piece of paper, I had like 20 hearts. And then I just by memory tried to remember all the names of my classmates and just with a Sharpie just wrote to Bobby from Basil, to Nancy from nothing on there. Just the worst, most embarrassing Valentines possible. And when it came time just to, usually how this works is you take a little break during class. Everybody stands up and walks desk to desk and leaves Valentines for everybody. And then you come back to a big pile of Valentines. I walked around and I was so embarrassed of my bad Valentines. I only delivered like 2 of them and then was overcome with shame and didn't deliver any more. And I just stuffed them back in my backpack. And because I only delivered 2 of them, those 2 people really thought that I had a huge crush on them because I did not give Valentine's to anybody else.
So there 2 girls, or was this a little more
it was
open
one
times?
Girl and one boy. It was very awkward.
That is awkward.
It was very strange.
Yeah.
Yes, and I couldn't take the shame anymore. But then because I had only delivered 2, those 2 people were like, "What is the message here? What is going on?"
Is he playing matchmaker or is he into some weird stuff?
Shame upon shame, embarrassment over embarrassment.
It's okay. I think I was the kid in maybe 3rd or 4th grade that, the girl that I had the crush on, didn't bring enough. And so I was left out of receiving whatever, little candy pack.
Oh,
from her.
no. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. Trauma, Basil. Trauma. Thanks for bringing up trauma.
It's trauma, baby.
Scars on the soul.
That's
fragile youth.
We got to get the pity from the fellow Valentines. Traumatized.
Spending too much time on this therapy session.
What? We don't have to worry about the trauma of giving bad Valentines because we have some executive producers to thank.
Executive producers.
That's right. We're on the value for value model, which means we take no corporate money whatsoever. There's no corporation on which our existence hinges in their participation in supporting the show. We are accountable only to you, dear listener. And if you get value out of the show, put value back in, because that's the only way that we are able to continue. You can support the show with your time, your talent, or your treasure. And those who come in and are honest and generous with the value that this show brings to their lives, they come in, support the show, and we thank them here at the top. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. We've got a couple of execs today. That's wonderful. Starting with executive producer, Sir Marty K, Knight of the Wrong Timeline.
Ah, there he is.
Yes. Yes. The Knights of the Canary Cry Roundtable coming in, saving the day. Sir Marty K comes in with $100 and 22 cents.
Cool.
Yeah. And a note here from Sir Marty. He says, I'm going to try to read it as I believe it was intended to be read, not as it is written. Okay. Says, I'll keep it sweet, short, and on the point, like Gonzo. Haha, LOL. So, yeah, I think that's right. This is a nice Valentine's. That's a good Valentine's for you, Gonzo. You know what we didn't do this year? Is the Canary Cry Valentine's.
I know. I saw somebody mention it, and I thought, that's a thing we did last year, and I
totally forgot about it this year. Oh, nuts. Yeah. Next time somebody remind us earlier. Yeah. Marty, back to Marty K's note here. I'll keep it sweet, short, and on the point like Gonzo. LOL. I made a funny movie clip or whatever it's called. It's 17.14 seconds. I don't know if it's show friendly, but it will at least give you a chuckle. I'll send it with this email.
I got it now. Do you want to play
it? Got it. Were you able to play it?
Yeah, I can play it.
I couldn't play it. It wouldn't download on my computer. Well, have you watched it?
I have watched it, yeah.
You have? Yeah. Is it show friendly?
Yeah, show friendly enough. I mean, it is a little scary, so, if you have little ones, maybe.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's not horrible, but, yeah. I'll play it now. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Copus Campbell, Australia's new ambassador for gender equality.
So for those of you just listening, yes, the Stephanie Copus Campbell, ambassador for gender equality. I don't know if it's part lighting, part just
she's got a very intense face.
She
very
does.
Intense face.
She
very
does.
Sharp. Yes. Very heavy brow line. Mm-hmm. Some interesting. I think it's the contrast between her eyeballs are like tan, like the iris, not the iris, whatever the colored part is. Mm-hmm. It's like tan colored, which is new. I haven't seen that one. Yeah, she's a very intense lady. She got some flack on Twitter.
If I was in that room doing the video, I don't know. Would you say something? Would you just be like, "Hey, maybe"?
What are you gonna say?
I don't know. Change the lighting a little bit. Yeah, let's do a change angles. I don't know.
I don't think it's lighting. It's the woman's face. She's just a very interesting looking person. Okay. All right. Thank
Marty
you for that,
K,
Sir Marty K. The note. Hold on. The note continues.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Says, "Oh yeah, I'm actually 3 years your senior, Cabana Boy, Kenobi. So you are still just a sprout. And for you listeners, I'm sending the mail with a heart emoji and a laughing emoji. Yours sincerely, Martin K, Knight of the Wrong Timeline." There we go. Thank you very much, executive producer Marty K.
Where'd you find this?
Thank you, Sir Marty K.
Mm-hmm. We got another executive producer here. That's executive producer Tammy C.
Tammy C. Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah. Thanks. Glad to have you back, Tammy C. Tammy C supports the show for $124.44. Woo! Right. and a note that says, "Hi guys, God has blessed me with a new job, so I want to pass some of that blessing on to you guys for your show." Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I also joined the supply drop. Yes, you did. Looking forward to today's show. God bless you both. Thank you very much. Executive producer Tammy C.
Where'd you find this?
Thank you.
I love seeing producers, especially executive producers, getting blessed with new financial situations. Thank you very much. Okay, as of now, that is our two executive producers. It's not too late to support the show, folks. You can head on over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support. We have any new T-shirt council people?
Oh, yes. Time to thank some of the most important people in the world. That's right. These are the people who have joined the Canary Cry T-shirt Council. They have answered the call to not only support the show, but to help us decide on the T-shirts that will be sent out to the Canary Cry T-shirt Council. Now, here's the thing. We are not selling T-shirts. That's not what we do. We're not in the retail business. We don't do merch. But for those producers who commit to producing the show for $19.84 a month, which is, I have not done the math on that, but that certainly is a little over $1 an episode, I believe. They will receive a free gift of an exclusive one-run T-shirt created by, voted on by the T-shirt Council, made in America, printed by Canarians. That's right. We have producers of the show creating the T-shirts, which is also helping them out in their business. You help the show out, and you receive exclusive shirts every quarter. And we got a few people who joined up, which means they are officially the most important people in the world. And let's thank them now.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
We have most important person in the world, producer Bruce B.
Bruce B.
Thank you very much, Bruce B. We have
Bruce
most
Bannon?
important person in the world, Andrew D.
Andrew. Thank you, Andrew.
And last but not least, most important person in the world, Adam C.
Adam Carolla?
Yes. Adam Carolla will be receiving Canary Cry News Talk
Thank
T-shirts.
you, Adam C.
The
You're better
last,
than Adam Carolla.
the last, what is that? The letter of their last names, BDC. It could be CBD. So I don't know what that means, but maybe that will inspire somebody to become a Canary Cry T-shirt Council member.
Okay.
And you should become one of the most important people in the world by going to canarycryt-shirtcouncil.com. Go check it out. Now it's time for Flippy.
All right.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Time for the Flippy update, folks. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy as a way to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways the robots are taking over the world and how there's nothing we can do about it. Today's Flippy update is coming from Wired.com. The headline, "A robot finds more trouble under the Doomsday Glacier."
Whoa, this is like a crossbreed Antarctica story.
So a new discovery. Antarctica.
Penguins.
Right. Oh, yeah. Speaking of Adam Carolla, who you just mentioned, let's not forget that Adam Carolla tried to steal the Flippy update.
That's true.
There was another called it.
There's another prominent podcast that did a little sort of Flippy tangent recently.
I'm sure they
we won't
did.
talk about it now, but we might later.
We're tired of giving free advertisement for incredibly popular podcasts. All right, back to the Wired.
Yes.
Icefin, the robot.
Ooh.
Icefin.
Icefin. Sounds
which
like
is
a superhero.
The coolest name for a robot so far. Icefin, the robot, is designed to go where no human can, swimming off the coast of Antarctica under 2,000 feet of ice. Lowered through a borehole drilled with hot water, the torpedo-shaped machine takes readings and, most strikingly, video. Striking. Of Thwaites Glacier's vulnerable underbelly. Ooh, we've got vulnerable underbelly of the glacier. This Florida-sized chunk of ice is also known as the Doomsday Glacier, and for good reason. It's rapidly deteriorating. No, it's not. Not if you listen to the Antarctic scientists. And if it collapses, global sea levels could rise over a foot. Oh no! It could also tug on surrounding glaciers as it dies, which would add another 10 feet to rising seas.
That's assuming no other place freezes over with more ice, but okay.
Yeah. So we have another example here of the mainstream reporting on glaciers that directly goes against what the actual Antarctic scientists are trying to tell the rest of us. But that's not what this segment is about, and it is not the most important thing in this article. In a pair of papers published today in the journal Nature, scientists describe what ice fin and other instruments have discovered underneath all that ice. Simply put, trouble. Models of future sea level rise. Models, Gons. More models.
I thought we got video this time, though.
Yeah, where's the video? Come on. Why do we need models if we got...
Well, it's dark down there. We have to fill it in with CGI.
They take a couple lines to say a bunch of nonsense that is debunked by Antarctic scientists, but it says, but the robot found that 10% of it is way more complex. What? Talking about the glacier. There are terraces, for instance, of vertical walls over 30 feet high where melting is happening much faster than in flat areas. Oh no. That small portion is, quote, contributing 25% of the melting that we see, says Brittany Schmidt, an Earth and planetary scientist at Cornell University, who leads the Ice Fin Project. She's the lead author of one of the papers and co-author on the other. Quote, so it's a really outsized impact. As those features melt, blah, 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 tell me more about Ice Fin. To deploy Ice Fin and other instruments, Schmidt and her colleagues drilled down near the glacier's grounding line, the point where the ice lifts off the Antarctic landmass and starts floating in the sea. Thwaites' risk of melting isn't due to rising atmospheric temperatures above, but from rising ocean temperatures below.
Not as above, but so below.
Yes, so you see there's some fun. As above, so below. Not as above is so below. Communication, talking about this robot.
At least they are saying that it's not from rising temperatures, which is sort of the typical, the world is getting hotter in general. That's why the water's, that's why the ice is melting.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving away from that just a little bit, not atmospheric temperatures, but,
Now, before I get into it, I'll skip down a couple more paragraphs back to Ice Fin. When I skip things, it's just because it's the same old stuff we've heard about climate change. I'm here for the robot, okay? With Ice Fin, the researchers could remotely pilot a camera while measuring the salinity, temperature, and oxygen content of the water. Quote, we saw that the ice base itself was very complex in its topography, so there's lots of staircases.
Staircases?
Terraces.
In the ice?
Rifts, and crevices. Yes. The
Nephilim you guys
staircases.
Are trying to destroy, what's her name's castle, I think is what's going on. We got staircases.
Elsa's castle.
Yes, Elsa's getting mad.
British Antarctic Survey physical oceanographer Peter Davis and lead author of one of the papers. Okay.
And co-author on the other. That seems to be a thing. You lead one, co-author the other.
So as you can see, not a whole lot of exciting information about the robot. Now, the Flippy update, as we know, is not just about the robots themselves, but the communication about the robots, the social engineering of the acceptance of robots, the turning robots into an indispensable part of human reality and human life. And what we see here, what was really offensive to me, is the headline focusing on the robot, the idea that, of course, brought us to this article. Oh, Antarctic robot. This is so many of our things clashing all at once. And yet the information about the robot is probably the most boring and useless part of the article. Well, I take that back. The Propaganda is the most boring and useless part, but
Climate
there's so
change.
little about the robot itself. And what I think that this is illustrating to us is not only are robots going to save us and serve us and make it so we don't have to work and make our lives better and replace us and replace our spouses and raise our children for us, but they are also going to be the thing that finally convinces someone out there, some right-wing extremist, that climate change is really happening, especially in Antarctica, despite what all those Antarctic scientists actually have to say about it. Now, Icefin is just beginning to map the whole underbelly of this glacier in detail, partly because of the computing power needed to parse such complexity over the vast area. So there, the admission that there's very little actually info. And then at the end of the article here, but the complex features that Icefin has discovered could be essential for modeling the glacier in much finer detail. Quote, "This is such a key region for Antarctic stability," says Dow. Quote, "Any data we're getting from there is going to be hugely valuable for trying to figure out what that system will do in the future." So modeling. As usual, it's all a bunch of computer models. But the reason that we can gather this data and progress the ongoing propaganda about Antarctica and its melting ice is finally we've got a robot involved, and it'll make people care, because of course robots are people are scientists, and we're all gonna die.
Very good.
Thank you.
I will not add anything to that, but I will.
Nothing to add. Nailed it. Let's move on.
Blow some balloons.
You said that this is violating our airspace, so why not take it down?
Yeah, so, clearly as we assess options and considering the size of the payload on this, looking at the potential for debris and the impact on civilians on the ground or property damage.
Please describe America to me in one single word.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was the foothills of the...
Space. Wanna go to space? Aliens.
Or more appropriately,
Where are the aliens?
we have Karin, Jean, what was it? I'm sorry. I forgot. Pierre, John. What was her name? I forgot her name.
Karin Jean-Pierre.
Karin Jean-Pierre. Thank you. We have her talking about aliens.
I just wanted to make sure we address this from the White House. I know there have been questions and concerns about this, but there is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity with these recent takedowns. Again, there is no indication of aliens or terrestrial activity with these recent takedowns. Wanted to make sure that the American people knew that, all of you knew that, and it was important for us to say that from here because we've been hearing a lot about it. I'm not.
Would you tell us?
I'm just, I loved E.T., the movie, but I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did she say terrestrial?
Yes. So that was one mistake. I mean, we're all very proud of her for making it through a sentence, but she did make a whoopsie. She did say terrestrial, which was interesting. I thought that the rousing laughter from the White House press corps, was just strange. It was just kind of weird, considering that the mainstream media across the board, as we just saw with Vice last episode, it's like if you are ignoring that these possibly could be or most likely are UFOs, as is being pushed by the mainstream. If you ignore that theory and you have a different theory, then you are an outcast. You're antisocial for having a different theory than UFOs. With the media obsession with these being UFOs of course, being used as a distraction from all sorts of things, not any one thing, but at the very least, sort of axiomatically, an effective general distraction from lots of other nefarious things going on. And so it's weird for the White House press corps to laugh along with that, as if they know that, what it is, what the whole messaging campaign has been about.
Yeah.
I just thought it was almost inappropriate.
I was going to say, you know the Ray Liotta mafia laughing meme? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
I'm showing it on the screen here. It's
the
like
one
the
you're
overt
showing,
laughter.
yes, okay.
That's the kind of vibe I was getting. Like the lizard people laughing in the background. Like, like the laughter didn't match the stuff she was saying. And she was kind of plowing through it and trying to get through. But,
and she really did not say anything funny. It was just the bringing up of UFOs caused this sort of this rousing laughter. Now, it was interesting that they even commented on it at all. And her comment was, we thought it was important that we say it here, meaning the White House, because we've been hearing a lot about that. What do you mean hearing a lot about that? What are you talking about?
If you, as government people, have been hearing a lot about it, are you saying from the people or from the people you're talking to?
Exactly.
Because then that's a big difference.
From your pilots, from your Navy pilots, and from your balloon rescue teams, and from, yes, you've been hearing a lot about it. Yeah. I don't know. It was just very strange.
Yeah. We were going to do a sort of a longer balloon thing, but we're going to move into something just naturally coming out of this whole thing. And let me set it up. So, the DOD, Department of Defense. We brought this up last episode. I left a link again in the show notes for anybody who wants to take a look at it. It is a archived version of the actual news transcript from the defense.gov website. And there's the DoD news briefing from 1997, Secretary of Defense William S. Cohen. There's that line where he talks about, phantom moles. By the way, he mentions James Woolsey. Remember James? Do you remember who James Woolsey is?
No, remind me.
That's James Woolsey. Okay. So he's mentioned in this.
The ex-CIA guy who basically admitted that the CIA is
interrupting elections around the world, basically
interfering with elections around the world.
And they talk about phantom moles and how phantom moles can basically cause intelligence institutions to basically be unproductive for years as they try to figure out who the mole is and all this stuff. But let me go back to that comment about the others. It says here, others, and this is again the Cohen, others are engaging even in an eco-type of terrorism whereby they can alter the climate, set off earthquakes, volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. So there are plenty of ingenious minds out there that are at work finding ways to which they can wreak terror upon other nations. It's real. That's the reason why we have to intensify our efforts. And that's why this is so important. Again, 1997. Okay, so given that, it says DOD, 1997, talking about eco-type terrorism, that they can control the weather, cause earthquakes, volcanoes to erupt using electromagnetic waves. Let's go to 2023 on Heart Day. SpaceNews.com. DOD can tune space surveillance sensors to track spy balloons. Okay, so now we're coming out and we're talking about the DOD getting involved with watching what's going on here. Won't read the whole article, but got some key parts here. Washington, as the Pentagon continues to recover the remnants of the Chinese spy balloon shot down February 4th off the coast of South Carolina, the Biden administration is forming an interagency group to investigate these aerial surveillance objects and study options for their detection and analysis. We've talked about that. One of those options would be to tune the U.S. military's space surveillance sensors to help detect high-altitude aerial surveillance platforms in the upper layer of the atmosphere. John Plum, Assistant Secretary of Defense for Space Policy, said February 14th. Speaking at a Mitchell Institute Aerospace Studies event, Plum said his office has participated in multi-agency discussions on the implications of China deploying spy balloons over U.S. airspace. Quote, obviously the U.S. government's been focused on this issue for a couple of weeks now, including myself. Talks about NORAD, talks about, just the stuff from that balloon. Plum explained there is, quote unquote, sensor overlap in the military's network of conventional radars, phased array radars, and telescopes that are used for air defense, missile defense, and space domain awareness. The systems that provide space domain awareness, quote, can also be tuned, of course, to look at the stratosphere, he said. The military's collection of sensors is called the Space Surveillance Network, with systems dispersed across multiple sites worldwide. NORAD first deployed these sensors during the Cold War as an early warning system to detect ballistic missiles. Quote, how to tune those or understand how to use the information coming back from them to get better awareness of that domain is definitely part of the solution, end quote, to the detection of high-altitude balloons, Plum added. Okay, it's right balance, yada, yada, yada. Mitchell Institute Chair Kevin Chilton, a retired U.S. Air Force general, noted that until the recent discovery of the Chinese balloon, that section of the higher atmosphere was not getting much attention. Quote, there wasn't a lot going on there, so maybe our focus was a little lower in the atmosphere, and now we have to pay attention, Chilton told Plum. Plum pointed out that the U.S. military radars are trained for cruise missile threats, and the balloon problem is not just a Department of Defense issue.
The balloon problem.
The balloon problem. Okay, so again, it's setting up this whole balloon thing that it's still a threat. Okay, it wasn't aliens. Maybe not Chinese spy. Not all of them are Chinese spy balloons, but it's a threat. And this is where, and we've seen the eco-terrorism conversation, and this is where the whole thing comes together.
Climate change. Climate change.
Mass extinction.
This is from the Telegraph, and the headline, Climate Change Activist Goes Rogue, Releasing Mini Volcanoes to Cool Atmosphere.
Yay.
Yay, it's them again, those folks in Mexico.
So this is that company. It's a private company in Mexico who we've been following for a few months now. And they basically wanted to privatize chemtrails.
Yeah.
They talked about releasing all sorts of chemicals into the air to fix global warming or climate change or whatever. And we saw the U.S. government actually shut them down because, of course, nobody's allowed to do chemtrails except for the U.S. government. Excuse me?
I thought they were in Mexico, and then the Mexican government first was like, hey, yeah, go ahead. And then they were like, no, never mind.
Right. So they're in Mexico.
Yeah.
And the U.S. government, through the Mexican government, apparently I would assume that that's how it has to work, that they, told the Mexican government what's what, shut them down. They were no longer allowed to spray aluminum dioxide or whatever into the sky. Yeah. And, at the time, I don't remember whether balloons were originally part of that. I don't know if they ever even mentioned it. Maybe we just assumed it was planes because of chemtrails. Mm-hmm. But turns out the theme of balloons building up in the media is much, we may have even missed that one. We saw it in Antarctica. We saw it, of course, recently. But the mixture of the Antarctic balloons and this chemtrail balloon company leading up to this balloon hysteria, where now the DOD is getting military satellites involved, is very interesting to see.
Okay, so here's what the article says. A Mexico-based startup will next week launch sulfur particles into the stratosphere in a rogue move to create a mini volcano effect, it says, could help cool the planet. So, yes, the government said, you don't have our blessing to do this. They are going rogue. They are pretty much exactly eco-terrorists at this point.
And announcing it.
And announcing
it beforehand.
They are literally like the jihad, where they were announced what they're going to do. It's weird. The technique. Oh, yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah. I thought it was weird to announce it, but that's what the jihadists always do.
Yeah. The technique, known as stratospheric aerosol injection, mimics the impact of volcanoes by using a weather balloon to to release sulfur, creating a cloud of particles that reflect the sun's rays and have a cooling impact.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because of all the comments about the recent balloons, especially the one in the ones up north, Alaska and Canada, where they were specifically saying, like, we don't know where these are coming from. We don't know if they're private or government or corporate balloons. It's, you know, it's quite possible that we've had these rogue eco-terrorists spraying stuff into the,
And hey, Biden, you can say Biden stopped the chemtrails. It'll be part of the anti-Q narrative.
Sure.
It is one of several geoengineering techniques being studied as a way to cool the planet to avoid breaching internationally agreed limits on global warming. Then it goes into some detail about it. There's diagrams and whatnot. But experts in geoengineering say the launches set a dangerous precedent for private companies or governments to interfere with the planet's atmosphere. The company is backed by 2 venture capital funds and is selling cooling credits to the public for $15, which it says pays for 1 gram of sulfur expected to produce enough cooling to offset a ton of carbon emission for a year. There's like a crypto side to this thing too.
Yeah. No, this is interesting. They kind of created, kind of along the lines of the crypto thing where any company could just make their own crypto and sell it as some sort of asset. They're doing a similar thing, except it's a different product.
Yeah, it's not carbon credits, it's cooling credits.
Right. That is a really funky way for Wall Street to get into the game.
No, this is the governments are probably it sounds like they're in on it. You know, it sounds like they branched out and put together a private company, and the government's in public they're like, don't do it, but they're like, but we're going to do it because.
So you know how one of the talking points with anti-crypto politicians and stuff,
which is
that
hot right now.
Is that cryptocurrency funds terrorism,
right?
You know, or can be used to fund crime or terrorism or something. Buying these cooling credits, you're like literally funding eco-terrorism. Yeah.
I don't think there's any other podcasts talking about this in this context.
No,
Maybe there are. We don't listen to everything.
Not that I've heard.
Okay, so there's a little bit more here. Global non-use agreement to practice. The practice is far largely. Let me start over. The practice is so far largely unregulated, leading experts to warn of the dangers of taking action without global consensus. If conducted on a large scale, there are concerns the technique can deplete the ozone layer or change precipitation patterns. Hundreds of scientists have signed a call for a global non-use agreement to stop the development and potential use of all large-scale solar and geoengineering technologies. See, it's interesting. You got to have some rogue people to write the legislation. And let me just read this quote. It would basically change precipitation patterns, meaning it can mess up the monsoon, which would affect millions of people, said Lily Fuhr from the Center for International Environmental Law. Of course. Basically, you're impacting everyone on this planet, so everyone should have a say. There's not one country or actor that can take control of the global thermostat and do it benignly for everybody else. Experts warned.
Funny.
Yeah.
This is literally what Bill Gates has been talking about doing for years. Yeah. And suddenly some other little company tries to do it, and it's a big deal.
How do we not know this is Bill's side project?
It's a good point.
Creating some, making it look like a private company. They're rogue. And Bill calls them, don't worry about it. I'll call my Epstein friends or whatever, So very interesting in the context of all this balloon talk, because the eco-terrorist thing, it's going to become more of an issue, and it seems like a controlled release. I did go to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have some background on eco-terrorism?
Just a little bit here. So
okay.
Wikipedia has a little thing on environmental terrorism, and because I couldn't really find eco-terrorism proper, but it says here environmental terrorism consists of one or more unlawful or even hostile action that harm or destroy environmental resources, chemical spill, or deprive others of their use. It is different to environmental vandalism, which is a rather permitted but ethically disputed destruction of environment. So it'll be interesting to see how this is a great way to set up, just all these people starting to do eco stuff. But if it's the right kind of eco stuff, it's just eco vandalism. But if it's the wrong people doing it, it's eco terrorism.
The example you have here is like manufacturing or for instance, pharmaceutical factories. Pharmaceutical factories, especially in other countries, have famously been ecological vandals in that they dump the byproducts of their stuff into the river. There's the like Viagra factory in India that dumped the waste into the river, and the fish were affected, stuff like this. That's more like eco vandalism. And eco terrorism is, you gotta point out that the terrorism part of it is so specific because it's done to cause change. It's done with a purpose. It's done with an ideology, and it's used. Traditionally, terrorism definitions include like with the intent to cause fear to intimidate. And so it sounds like this Wikipedia was sort of crafted to let corporations off the hook, which I think will come. It'll come into view in the next story, while giving an extra level of threat level to companies like this, Mexican geoengineering chemtrail company. Especially since they've been told not to do it, the ideology behind it being pro, fighting climate change. So that, they're fighting climate change after being told not to. Which the addition of the ideology there really does kind of make them terrorists, eco-terrorists, versus some corporation, dumping stuff where they shouldn't.
Yeah, right about the time I think Greta released a book. It is kind of helping one hand with another. There's one more part to this wiki page. They quote Shalecki, who distinguishes between environmental terrorism and eco-terrorism. And she says, in contrast, eco-terrorism is the destruction of property in the interest of saving the environment from human encroachment and destruction. More concisely, environmental terrorism involves targeting natural resources. Eco-terrorism involves targeting the built environment, such as roads, buildings, and trucks, in defense of natural resources. Almost like, sounds like hippie terrorist or something.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, okay. So the difference between eco and environmental terrorism is one destroys the environment, the other destroys something
like
for the environment.
For the environment, yeah. So it's just interesting, and part of the agenda for a long time. And of course, we always have fun here and turn to things like the Illuminati New World Order game cards from the early 90s, who have some interesting cards. They have the Goal Earth First card, think globally, blow things up locally, destroy corporate groups, and control green groups. Interesting. There's another one called Pave the Earth, and this one's it's about the environmental groups infighting. So, some interesting things going on there that maybe some private companies will start fighting each other for the right to save the earth or something. I don't know. But the one that really caught my attention, the eco-guerrillas. And the description here has +6 on direct attacks to destroy corporate groups. Increases resistance of all your groups by 2 against any attack made by or aided by a corporate group. So you have these eco-guerrillas doing damage, taking down the corporations. And if you think about it, the last 30 years, the oil spill, all the environmental disasters and stuff, it's almost like all that was made to create or try to create what looks kind of like a grassroots eco-terror group. And the technology had to catch up to the point where people can, not normal, but just more, your common citizen can galvanize around potential tools and science to be able to do it. Just to, because we're in the Illuminati card stuff. Do you have something to say about that real quick before there's a couple more cards to show.
Good.
The earthquake card I thought was interesting, given the Turkey earthquake. It says here, disaster. This is an instant attack to destroy any place. It does not require an action. Its power is 12 against a huge place. So basically, yeah, the Illuminati card game, having an earthquake card where you can target any location with an earthquake. Then, of course, you have the conspiracy theorists, right? It says here, and I think we might have walked right into this one, Basil. This powerless and much mocked group is prized by the Illuminati because their wild ravings often contain useful ideas. While you control this group, you may have one extra plot card in your hand at all times. But okay, all right. Maybe that's why we're
a source
so
of
right
excellent ideas
about everything, is because we're giving them the ideas.
Honestly, it's not that I'm not that surprised by that the Illuminati would pay attention to conspiracy theorists to get their ideas, because there have been way too many of our little connections and theories that have come absolutely true over the years to make any sense of things.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, even just the balloon thing. We've been talking about the obsession with balloons for months, and then boom. So they must be subscribed. Maybe that's why we keep getting our strikes taken off. It's because they don't want to miss a show.
Yeah, it's possible. There is before you move on, there's one more thing I wanted to play real quick. And that is a small clip from the show Cowboy Bebop, the anime that was turned into a live action film. And there's an episode, I think it's episode 4, where it's sort of like the predictive programming of eco warriors. So I have the audio here. I got a screenshot for the people watching. Basically, these people appear in this restaurant and they kidnap this lady because she's corporate. It's really all the stuff we just talked about with the Illuminati cards.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are the Callisto Liberation Front, eco-soldiers and space warriors, fighting to return the colonies back to Mother Nature. Miss Cadena, CEO of KO Construction. While you enjoy a night at the opera, your company is preparing to destroy thousands of acres of forest on Callisto. Life, and you intend to replace it all with steel and concrete, to build your cities and fill them with people.
That's the whole point of terraforming.
Silence! Your company is a plague upon nature, directly responsible for the recent and ruthless extinction of the Ganymede sea rat.
Ugh, environmentalists, the worst.
Your reckoning has arrived.
That's pretty funny. Kind of some Greta vibes.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And they have these little bombs that turn people into trees. That's their whole thing, eco-terrorists.
Cute. Okay. Well, so there's some interesting connections that we as crazy conspiracy theorists might just be making where only coincidences truly exist. But I'd like to refer once more to the Vice article from last episode, which was communicating the idea that the balloons are not UFOs and that they might be a distraction,
right,
is antisocial behavior, while at the same time admitting that, UFO balloon deniers might have accidentally become, eco warriors of some kind. But the basis being the balloon is a distraction from the eco disaster that is the train crash. Let's see here. Yes. And then the Telegraph article that you just read about the eco-terrorist balloon in Mexico is communicating, no, the balloons are the threat. The balloon is the threat, but it is an eco-terrorism threat. So don't question the threat of the balloon.
Right.
Both of these articles are, no. Balloons are a threat. They might be different kinds of threats, but they are threats, and to say that they're not is
to be honest,
heresy.
The eco-terrorist is probably much more terrifying than the aliens.
Probably. I mean, the aliens are going to try to They're both trying to save the Earth in one way or another.
Sure.
So anywho, we have the mainstream media putting the attention back on the balloons every single possible way they can figure it out. Whether it's overt messaging or covert messaging, don't stop paying attention to balloons. Now, and by their own admission, conspiracy theorists are right that the balloons are distraction. So on this same track of balloons and trains and eco-terrorism, let's talk about the trains, okay? The trains. They just keep happening in a similar fashion that we've seen the balloons. The balloons were like, oh no, we found a balloon. And then we found a balloon every day.
Yeah,
we shot down balloons every day for 4 days. It's been a couple days since we've shot down a balloon.
Yeah.
However, in the almost the exact same pattern, we've been seeing these train crashes. And I think there's a potential for some covert eco-terrorism when it comes to these train crashes.
Yeah. Or eco-vandalism. Maybe it's just eco-vandalism.
Could be eco-vandalism, could be ecological terrorism, could be eco-terrorism. I don't know. There's all sorts of possibilities. But let's get into the trains for a second.
Okay.
So first of all, the Ohio, back to the original East Palestine, Ohio, continues to be a disaster. I mean, and the health issues keep mounting up. The conspiracy keeps rolling. Over here at abcnews.go.com, we have this headline: East Palestine, Ohio resident weighs in on fears following train derailment and chemical spill. Just a couple notes from here. Ben Ratner has spent a lot of time thinking about what it would be like to survive a freight train chemical disaster. After all, he appeared in a movie about it.
We talked about this guy, the same Ratner guy we talked about last episode with the CNN article.
Exactly. So as we sort of move through this, and this came out yesterday, this coincidence that the eco disaster being predicted in a movie that came out just months ago.
Months ago, yeah.
And the exact same thing actually happening, taking place months later after the movie. It did occur to me, we were kind of confused about the earnings of the movie only being $34,000. Somebody mentioned that it's because it was just released on streaming services, maybe not a theatrical release.
Either way, it doesn't matter. It's still not that much money.
Daily Mail here has Ohio residents hit by a wave of sickness after train carrying toxic chemicals exploded and engulfed surrounding neighborhoods in black smoke. Let me give you a little bit of this. Health concerns for Ohio residents are growing after a train carrying toxic chemicals crashed and engulfed surrounding neighborhoods in black smoke. East Palestine resident Melissa Henry told the Associated Press her youngest son's eyes turned red as a tomato, and he was coughing a lot before the family evacuated to her parents' house outside the evacuation zone. Another resident in North Lima, roughly 10 miles from the train derailment, had her 6 chickens die days after the chemical fire started. Taylor Holzer, a registered fox keeper, who lives outside the evacuation perimeter, told WKBN that his foxes were ill and one had died. Dead fish were also spotted in waterways around the scene after the incident. 50 Norfolk Southern Railroad freight train cars carrying toxic vinyl chloride derailed in Columbia County at around 9 p.m. on Friday, February 3rd. So this train disaster really is sort of being described as this eco-terrorism, putting chemicals that are not just affecting people, but affecting animals. I saw a video of just hundreds of fish floating to the top of these creeks, these rivers, these ponds, animals being taken out just by whatever they're breathing in the air. Very, very concerning situation over there. If we do have any producers with boots on the ground, feel free to leave us a message or something. Tell us how things are going. Anything to mention about Ohio?
I think that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I think the pattern will emerge as we go through here. So.
Yep. Now, After Ohio, this came out on February 13th, Monday, the last episode. This is FoxNews.com. Texas train derails in collision with 18-wheeler, leaving driver dead. An 18-wheeler collided with a train on Monday morning in East Texas, leaving the truck driver dead and derailing over a dozen train cars, according to police. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office started fielding 911 calls about the wreck around 7:24 a.m. in Splendora, a small town about 40 miles north of Houston. When first responders arrived at the scene, the driver of the 18-wheeler was already dead. According to the Splendora Police Department, no one else was injured. The East Montgomery Fire Department said that there is no active threat to the community stemming from the wreck, putting some fears to rest after a train derailment earlier in the month sent toxic gases into the air over East Palestine, Ohio. So this is something you'll see as a theme now as we go through these many train derailments happening every day. They are all making sure to mention something about the threat or lack of threat when it comes to ecoterrorism.
Yeah, we have the standard. The standard has been set with East Palestine.
Yeah.
So now everything is compared to East Palestine, all the train crashes.
In this same exact news narrative way that every balloon is put into the context of the Chinese spy balloon. Yeah. So keep in mind the pattern here, which is the first one happens and it is horrible. It's sort of the worst possible thing. Chinese balloon, the first balloon, Chinese spy balloon, has explosives on board.
In our airspace.
COVID.
Yeah.
In our airspace. This is a threat, huge thing. And then every subsequent balloon is sort of less and less threatening. Same thing with these train crashes. First train crash. Oh my gosh, it's a huge disaster. People are dying. Animals are dying. It's the worst ecological disaster in a century. And each subsequent train crash is sort of less and less concerning. Yeah. In detail, by the way, not because they're reporting it as less, I don't know, not like they're ignoring facts about the severity. They just also happen to be less and less severe, which I think is an interesting detaal.
Okay. Well,
any thoughts about that before we get on to the next crash?
Let's just keep moving.
Okay. WSAZ.com. Truck driver dies in crash between train tractor trailer. Yeah, okay. So another tractor trailer and train crash, this time in Ashland, Kentucky. Ashland Police Chief Todd Kelly confirms the driver of a dump truck died after the truck was struck by a train. It happened Tuesday, so a day after, at the 42nd Street crossing. The truck driver was turning onto it from Winchester Avenue, Kelly says. The collision took place right across from the Ashland Fire Department's Station 2. Firefighters heard the crash and rushed across the street. Quote, "There was nothing they could do," Ashland Fire Department Deputy Chief Stephen Alley said. Quote, "It was a very traumatic, catastrophic incident. A crossing bar and lights are located at the crossing," Chief Kelly says. They and CSX crews are investigating what the status of those were at the time of the collision. Right now, this is a quote, "That's part of our investigation." So they're trying to see if the crossing bars were up or down or whatever. There was an update here. The truck driver died. Did they figure out what happened? No word. Nope. Yep. That's the extent of the updates. So you have another truck and train collision. Have we heard anything yet about the Ohio train derailment and what may have caused it?
Not really. I haven't heard much.
I haven't seen one yet.
Yeah. The reporting was scarce to begin with. I mean, they only started reporting on it because everyone started making a big deal about it online.
Give it a little goog if you can, real quick. On top of that, today, people.com, evacuation, shelter in place orders issued after deadly crash spills nitric acid on Arizona freeway.
Oh, yeah.
Was this a train or was this a truck? The shelter in place order was temporarily lifted Tuesday evening, but reinstated Wednesday following a temporary setbacks overnight, according to state officials. Officials in southern Arizona have issued evacuation and shelter-in-place orders after a truck carrying hazardous chemicals overturned on a local freeway. So this is not a train, but this is related in the chemical disaster aspect of it. And you can kind of, I don't know, relate. I mean, a lot of these trains crashes obviously have to do with truck drivers, and yet here we have a truck driver having an enormous nitric acid spill in Arizona. And then here, coming from, loading, there it is, TulsaWorld.com. They gave an update to this one. That's nice. Update. All clear issued after fire brought under control at Port Catoosa. An all clear has been issued after the fire was brought under control at Port Catoosa. The fire was reportedly shortly after 9 a.m. at a storage tank. This is the storage tank explosion on the north end of the channel, according to Tulsa Port's director, David Yarbrough. He said he would not speculate on what was in the tank or who it belongs to. He is unsure what caused the fire or what was in the tank, which is estimated to be about 30 feet tall, big tank. With prevailing winds out of the west, a hazmat alarm was sounded, prompting an evacuation. About an hour and a half later, roads and gates were reopened at the port after the fire was put out, Yarbrough said. Rogers County Emergency Management, Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and Tulsa Fire Department were among responding agencies. No injuries reported. They still don't tell us what was in this tank.
That's what's weird about it. They kind of just, it's a tank. They don't know who owns it.
It was a chemical fire.
Fire.
Specifically
hazmat
a chemical
alarm
fire.
Going off. So I don't know, man. There's all of a sudden there's a attention drawn to chemicals just being spilled everywhere. It's just a weird thing. I mean, the train thing is part of it, but I think the theme that we're starting to see is the chemical aspect, whether it's there or not in some of these.
It was interesting. I believe it was an article about the Texas train crash, where they very specifically were like, don't worry about any chemicals. There were some chemicals spilled, but it was just some like consumer level Windex cleaning supplies or something. Everything being put in the context of the original train disaster, which have you found a cause for that yet?
So there's the Hill is they have a little thing. It looks a little deeper than I'd like to go with it, but the Hill had an article, 5 lingering questions over Ohio train derailment, and there's a little segment in here titled "Did lax regulations help cause the crash?" And they talk about the possibility of brake failure, which caused it to derail. And so it truly does seem like a maintenance type of issue where it just got old and the train fell off and had a big, pile up and explosion and all that stuff. So it really doesn't look like it was, at least the way they're talking about it. They're talking about it in terms of legislation and lack of oversight to, advance the technology to of trains and yada, yada, yada.
So you have this balloon emergency happening throughout the world, and it's the biggest deal that could ever possibly be. And then we have the Mexican eco-terrorist balloon company who, against the orders of the American government, are going through with their rogue balloon eco-terrorism. And then subsequently, you have the issue with the train derailment, which, look, if there was somebody trying to do carry out an act of eco-terrorism, this would have been a pretty impressive one. We have not heard much about it yet. And then we have report after report, train crash after train crash, explosion after explosion, trucks involved in almost all of them, of this sort of rash of possible eco-terrorist activity. Now, I'm not saying I know anything else that is, that would have to do with this, but as we analyze and deconstruct the news cycle here over the past now almost 2 weeks, it seems to have a very clear trajectory. One interesting thing that occurred to me, and it has now occurred to a lot of people, is there's one man that has, it's sort of his responsibility to respond to these sort of things. The guy in charge of things like truck problems, train problems. Yeah. He's the guy. Is Pete Buttigieg.
Hey, booty.
Yeah,
hey,
and he actually took.
To set up Pete Buttigieg, let me just read a little segment here from The Hill. About 4.5 million tons of toxic chemicals are transported through U.S. communities every year by rail, and 12,000 trains carrying hazardous materials cross through towns and cities each day, The Guardian reported. Quote, the Palestine wreck is the tip of the iceberg and a red flag. Ron Kaminkow, a former Norfolk Southern Freight engineer and secretary for the Railroad Workers United, told The Guardian, quote, if something is not done, then it's going to get worse, and the next derailment could be cataclysmic. Yes, the infrastructure is failing us.
And we've drawn the connection between the railroad accident, and I think it's interesting how we have not found any sort of foul play or anything yet, but it is sort of being put on poor maintenance, poor staffing, poor performance by kind of the railroad workers. Shortly after Biden's forcing railroad workers back to work after they were threatening a strike, there's Biden and Pete Buttigieg both played a part in threatening blue-collar workers back to work under threat of jail to continue working under horrible conditions. We mentioned last episode how Biden just seems to have the most coincidental timing with his things.
We recall the article from the New York Times, which we covered at the time, which is about a year ago. Pittsburgh bridge collapses hours before Biden infrastructure visit. And we were like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. Biden was going to go visit this bridge. And then just hours before talking about the infrastructure crumbling, the bridge collapses. Wow, this guy, man, he's a prophet.
It wasn't, and this was while he was trying to get his infrastructure bill passed. This was his big thing, his infrastructure bill, and he was going to go visit this bridge, but the bridge collapsed before he could visit it.
Right about a year ago, January 28th of 2022 was when this was reported, so literally a year ago.
Yeah, and now we have Biden and Pete Buttigieg threatening jail on rail workers to get them to not strike and to accept a bad deal from the railroad corporations. And just a month or two later, we have the biggest train wreck disaster in a while that spans, it spans all sorts of topics.
Very useful.
I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird timing. But anywho, Pete Buttigieg, who's the transportation secretary, which that's a whole nother funny commentary, but people were kind of confused as to why Pete Buttigieg has not made a comment on the train derailment. That is literally his job. He's the U.S. transportation secretary. Technically, balloons and trains both his... This is his responsibility, and he had almost entirely ignored it. And he's given speeches since the train derailment, and he was not mentioning anything about it. But we do have CBSNews.com here. U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg comments on East Palestine train derailment. U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg has finally commented on the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, that took place 10 days ago. 10 days it took him to make a comment, and we will see what his comment is. But it took him 10 days to decide to finally do his job. Secretary Buttigieg took to Twitter. Good. His first comment is on Twitter on Monday night, saying he remains concerned about the families impacted. Here's his tweet.
That's a nice little pitch there by CBS. Remains to suggest really subtly that he had concern the whole time.
Don't worry, I've been concerned the whole time, even though I didn't say anything. His tweet says this: I continue to be concerned about the impacts of the February 3rd train derailment near East Palestine, Ohio, and the effects on families in the 10 days since their lives were upended through no fault of their own.
Ooh, whose fault is it?
Kind of weird to point that out.
Well, so whose fault is it there, Pete?
It's important that families have access to useful and accurate information. He wants them to make sure they have access to useful and accurate information.
Useful and accurate propaganda. Don't just read stuff on the internet. Make sure it's the proper stuff.
Buttigieg went on to say that the EPA is, quote, on site and monitoring indoor and outdoor air quality to test for VOCs and other chemicals of concern. Okay, I'm glad they're there. It sounds like the chickens have done enough testing of that, but it goes on. The EPA has screened more than 290 homes and didn't find anything.
Oh.
Cool EPA. You have chickens and foxes and fish and
everything's dying, but hey, there's no concern. The monitors aren't saying anything.
Screened homes and haven't found anything. They have another 181 homes to go. They do have this nice little piece at the end. If you want your home screened, click here for more information so you can get your home screened there.
You know what's going to happen? I can see it already. Pete Buttigieg is going to come out. He's going to say, we're going to demand masks instead of N95s.
A mask mandate.
We're going to get another mask mandate from all these chemical spills, but it's going to be, like a gas masks, the real dystopian end times type of deal.
Hazmat mask.
Hazmat level. But people are going to say, it doesn't really save you from vinyl chloride. And then others will say, it doesn't matter.
Start this whole thing over again.
It's a talisman for compliance with Pete.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. I don't think this is the culmination.
No.
I feel like whatever this cycle is working towards is still to come. Now we do have the presidential election starting to ramp up with different campaigns starting to announce. What's the person's name? Christie something or other.
Nikki Haley?
Nikki Haley, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Nikki Haley just announced. There's been talk about Pete Buttigieg, maybe going for a run or being considered.
Newsom's trying to make moves.
Yeah, lots of people trying to make moves. So this could, be an interesting opportunity for Pete or just a nail in the coffin. Yeah. We don't know. But this certainly isn't over. We're going to keep an eye on the news cycle. I think there's going to be more to this.
Buttigieg is 41 years old. I was trying to see. He seemed like he was a young guy. So.
Yeah. He's could be you, man. Could be you.
Could be me. The life that could have been.
Life that could have been.
Politician.
Could have been the Secretary of Transportation during this is probably the past 3 years or 2 years has probably been the most difficult time for a Secretary of Transportation in the history of the U.S. Maybe rivaled by 9/11, and after that,
I'd say 9/11 was probably pretty bad too. But
there was the whole thing over Christmas, the airline industry totally collapsing. Yeah. Now you have the train derailments, you got the balloons. I'm sure Pete thought this was going to be a cushy gig, and unfortunately it's not turning out that way.
No, they gave him the memo when they took his blood, Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's keep the show going. Let's have a party.
Yeah, definitely not the kind of party that I'm going to go to. Go to canarycry.party. It's safe.
Party time.
You will find a tree of links that leads to everything from where to watch the show, listen to the show, how to produce the show, how to connect with us and the community.
Welcome to Canary Cry. Party. It's the place you want to be. So say, welcome to Canary Cry. Gameplay, canarycry.party.
That's right. Go check it out. canarycry.party. You can find all sorts of great resources. You can join our newsletter, which I highly recommend you do. We send out all the sources for our shows before every show. You can also join the text message alert system, listen to other podcasts. It's a great place. Your one-stop shop for hours and hours of Canary Cry stuff. And with that, you can also learn how to produce the show. So let's thank some producers now.
It's break time!
Taking a quick break, thanking some producers. That's because we're on the value for value model, which means we take no corporate money whatsoever, nor do we participate in the occult ritualistic practice of advertisements. We do not give out affiliate codes. We know nothing. We don't form partnerships with platforms. We don't do that, nothing. We're just here, man. We're just here doing our thing. And if this show brings any value to your life, just keep in mind that the only way this show continues is with the participation of producers. That's you. And you can produce with your time, your talent, or your treasure, all sorts of ways to play your part in keeping the show going. It's a revolution where no longer shall corporations have the responsibility to choose what media stays, what media goes, and what is and isn't contained within the walls of that media. Nope, power to the people. We only exist because of our producers, and that's why we thank them every show. Of course, thank you to our executive producers, Sir Marty, Night of the Wrong Timeline, and Tammy C. Yep, and we've got a few more to thank. I will say, Tammy C. mentioned that she's supporting the show by joining the supply drop, which is very nice of her. And let me just tell you, if you're interested, let me tell you how to get involved with the supply drop. Cue that, Jake. Supply drop. That's right. If you support the show, the amount of $33 a month. That's just $2.77 per episode. Not only will you be playing a vital role in making sure that we can survive on those episodes with low producership, but we'll be thanking you over and over and over again in the form of exclusive, custom-created Canary Cry News Talk gear, which we will send to you every single quarter. That's 4 shipments per year. So that's just on top of the value of the show. So go to canarycrysupply.com, canarycrysupply.com, sign up, and you'll start receiving your stuff. Let's see here. I think it's only fair we mention, there's only 2 more weeks until the cutoff date for this supply drop, the Q1 supply drop for 2023. So if you are wanting to get involved, help out the show, and get cool stuff, you got 2 weeks. We'll start talking about some of the things in this next supply drop next week. So thank you very much. We already thanked the T-shirt council members, canarycryt-shirtcouncil.com. And let's go ahead and thank some producers who came in for this episode.
Let's do it.
Okay, we are going to be starting off with producer Joseph A.
Joseph A., thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Producer Joseph A. comes in for 7777.
Amen.
Lovely. Thank you. Fanny pack full of sevens. And producer Joseph sends a note here. Love you guys and your strong commitment to our Savior, Jesus Christ. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for your strong commitment to keeping this show going. Yeah. It's the only way we can do it. Next up, we have producer Marita R. is back.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Marita. Marita comes in with $23.23. 23. Love it.
She's sending us a message.
Yes, she's trying to remind us what the year is, because I keep writing 2022.
Stuck in the past.
Marita R.
Gotta go through that portal.
That's right. Next up, we've got producer Progress Not Perfection.
Thank you, Progress Not Perfection. Good to see you.
Yeah, producer Progress Not Perfection came in twice, both in the amount of $18.45, or I couldn't tell what the right number was, but minus fees, that was $17.43. So maybe $18.45. Maybe that's a notable year. something. I don't know.
Maybe they're time travelers too. It's the year they were born.
Most of our listeners are time travelers. Producer Progress Not Perfection says, Progress Not Perfection here. Imagine a chocolate iced cake donut with sprinkles. Okay, everybody.
Yeah.
Imagine a chocolate iced cake donut with sprinkles. It's a family pick-me-up. Quote, as you travel through life, brother, no matter be your goal, keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole. That's very cute. This makes me happy, or it makes me hungry and happy. Thank you very much, producer Progress Not Perfection.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, now I want a donut.
As you travel through life, brother, no matter be your goal, keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole. That's good. I want to remember that one. Thank you very much.
Yep, appreciate it.
Next up, we got Sir Moore of Night of the Burning Chariots, 194 episodes in a row, 11/11.
Thank you, Sir Moore.
Next up, we've got producer Violet came on the Patreon.
Thank you, Violet.
Nice round number there, which means we don't disclose it, just so everybody knows. If you produce the show in a nice round number, that's you telling us not to disclose the amount. If you don't mind us disclosing the amount, make it a funky number. Adding 33 cents or 77 cents is a good example. There you go. Next up, we got Sir Alex Protocol V2, Night of the Berean Protocol, pocket full of sevens, 140 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Sir Alex Protocol V2.
And that concludes the list of financial producers who came in to support the show in the amount of $777 or more, which entitles them to have a note read on the show. We got some people who came in under that amount. We're going to thank them now.
Okay.
Starting with producer Lucas A.
Lucas A, thank you.
Thank you, Lucas A. Runk Smash is back, 9 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Runk Smash.
Which means Runk Smash is lit, fam.
Where'd you find this?
Hey, you lit now.
Then we got Sir Case of the Shield Knight, 262 in a row.
Thank you, Sir Casey.
Dame Gale, Canary Whisperer of Lady of X's and O's, 225 in a row.
Thank you, Dame Gale.
Veronica D, 225 in a row.
Thank you, Veronica D.
Doctor Who Done That, 27 in a row.
Thank you, Doctor Who Done That, for busting the firmament.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will.
The balloons will do it.
Yes. Sir Scott, Knight of Truth, supports the show for 251 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Sir Scott.
I got a cute kitty that jumped on my lap. I didn't know he was in here. He's not allowed to be in the office. Yeah. Oh my gosh, he's so soft and cute.
Yeah, tell him to take a streak.
Oh yeah, Streakalicious.
Women rule.
That's right. And if you would like to become a producer of the show, you can head on over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
My money. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage.
Can you hear this cat purring? Hold on. Let me see. Let me see if we can get it on the air.
Okay.
All right, kitty. What do you have to say? Nope. Doesn't like it. Oh.
Hear
okay,
that?
I gotta put this cat outside, or else he's gonna use the litter box when there's no litter box.
Okay.
So let's see. You're starting this one out.
Yep.
Okay, bring us into the next section.
'Cause I'm DNA.
Did you ever have the feeling that you were being watched?
Did you ever? Oh, we got to wake up too. Forgot about that.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
All right, this article. I have a paywall thing here. That's no good. It's from the BBC. Oh, I already did this. Give me one moment here as I clear this up. And the headline is The man whose genome you can find and read. Actually, they changed the headline. So now it's Why the Human Genome Was Never Completed. Which is interesting because, we thought the Human Genome Project ended, 2002, 2003, something like that? Well, let's hear more about it here. Before the end of 2023, you should be able to read something remarkable. It will be the story of a single individual, who they are and where they come from, and it will offer hints about what their future holds. It probably won't be the most entertaining read on first glance, and it will be very, very long. But it will be a seminal moment. The publication online of the entire genome of a human being, end to end, with no gaps. At this point, you may feel that you have heard this before. Surely the human genome was published decades ago. Isn't that all done? It was, in fact, never finished.
What? It seems like we've been lied to by the scientific establishment. Yeah.
The first draft of the human genome was released in 2001, but then 9/11 hit and... No, I'm just kidding. Before the consortium of international scientists in the Human Genome Project announced that they had completed, in quotes, the job with a finished sequence in 2003. Assembled from chunks of various people's DNA, this became the quote-unquote reference sequence against which all other human DNA could be compared. It was certainly the best that could be done at the time, but had major gaps and errors. Later releases improved on it, but many of the problems persisted. Only in the last few years has technology advanced to the point that it is possible to read the entire human genome without gaps and with minimal errors. But these have all been composites using DNA drawn from multiple individuals. This year, for the first time, the entire genome of a single human being, a man named Leon Peshkin, is due to be released. Leon the lion, getting the lion DNA. This complete single human genome will be a monumental technological achievement. Only 70 years have passed since the double helix structure of DNA was first revealed. Yeah, see, I don't like that because, the DNA strand, the double helix, that was there before we discovered it.
It was revealed.
It's like, okay, but it was there. Thanks in part to a grainy black and white image taken by Rosalind Franklin, transforming our understanding of how genetic information is stored. Today, we have the capability to read the entire genetic textbook that makes a person unique. But the geneticists involved say it is also a beginning, not an end. They now want to sequence the genome of people from around the world to build up a true picture of our species' genetic diversity. Are you telling me all that 23andMe stuff was a scam? Ancestry.com is all a scam? It's not going to be official till it's on the blockchain. They want to understand what the previously unsequenced sections of DNA are doing, and they want to roll out end-to-end genome sequencing in clinics to help doctors diagnose and treat us when we get sick. Oh, how are we going to treat you if we don't have the whole genome, this whole sequenced genome? In short, the human genome will never be complete. We will never be done reading it. Then it goes into some the history of the whole genome project and everything else, which is I think most people are familiar with the how it's come to be and where it is now in terms of all this genetic stuff. So here's a theme that I've been developing as I write or try to compile what either will be Age of Deceit 4 or maybe some like shorter, like Age of Deceit shorts or something, something where it's a little more compact. But I've been writing and trying to compile my thoughts about the various levels of surveillance. So, and what I'm going to do is contextualize it in the sense of, hey, God is omnipresent. He's omnipotent. He can see everything. But there's this counterfeit in the fallen world. They're trying to create the same sort of omnipotent machine or whatever. And there's various levels of surveillance that takes place, whether it's physical, aerial, but I think genetic surveillance is going to become a thing. And, of course. And I'm in the film or the video, once it all comes together, I'll talk about ledgers and how it comes from the ideas of like crypto ledger and stuff like that, but also keeping track of our own ledger, our own genetic data, and only sharing parts of it that need to be. It's going to become just a crazy, wild world. And this breakthrough here that they're talking about, that's like the whole genome of one man. This is where I think things are going to get very interesting as more people decide to get their whole genome sequenced and have a copy of it or whatever. It's going to be interesting to see if the genome of a person will be open source, or if there's going to be privacy involved, or how is this going to operate. And it will inevitably, as if we're just kind of looking ahead as where this could go, it's going to get to the point where royalty, bloodlines, certain ethnicities, maybe, all that will be transparent in a sense. It'll be open source. So there won't be any question about who maybe has the rightful heir, from some ancient times that they carry the genetics of whoever. So I just think it's an interesting development. And the systematic, I don't know, it's kind of like a bait and switch. It almost feels like, because all the money that was poured into this project and saying it's done, but it was more of like a Frankenstein, like a compiled thing. It wasn't even real. Very similar to kind of the space pictures. You don't really get a full picture. You get the patched together with multiple pictures, CGI cleaned up.
Composite. That's a very interesting, comparison.
Yeah,
we know we've taken a picture of the human genome in the same way that we've taken a picture of the Earth.
Right.
In that we haven't, except for piecing it together,
and we can piece it together. So, I just think it's an interesting development. I think that we're headed towards those weird things that I'm talking about there. And again, I'll flesh it out better in the video. But isn't it interesting that in this post-COVID time is when this type of thing starts coming out. And I had a whole CRISPR segment that we dropped for the episode, but basically CRISPR is becoming mainstream. Motley Fool is telling people to buy CRISPR stock. You have Dr. He from China, the guy who did CRISPR on people before it was okay to, they didn't get the green light. Kind of like the eco-terrorists. He's sort of like his own eco-terrorist in a sense, or maybe, I don't know, what would that be? Genome terrorist or something?
Yeah.
It's genetic terrorist. Yeah. So we are being presented all the different domains by which there will be a struggle between the provocateurs, or the sort of the vigilante types who are saying they're fighting for the same cause but kind of causing damage. A very useful tool for the controllers to actually come down and make legislation and rules and all that kind of stuff. So it's just the same playbook. But there you go.
There was also Jane Metcalf talking about transforming humans with mRNA platforms. Right. So mRNA being another huge focus on that, and calling it guided evolution.
Didn't Moderna talk about engineering software, like talking about the mRNA as like, it's just like a software upgrade and that kind of stuff.
So it kind of fits into the whole of the human revolution, both transhumanism and sort of taking the reins on what humans not are, but ought to be.
Ought to be, yes. And we will be able to see the flaws right in our genetic code where we might be deficient in some place, and maybe we can borrow some genetics from others who are less deficient in those areas, and we shall mingle and become one mind. But no world government, though. We don't want that.
I wonder who this guy is and why he was the one that was chosen, or if he volunteered or what. Because it seems like if they wanted to do this, they could have done it a long time ago. But why did they lie about it for so long?
There's an industry built around it too. That's also something because it would be a great time to change all that, because it is part of the Great Reset here. You don't often. Ooh, interesting. I just looked up Leon Peshkin.
Mm-hmm.
He's a scientist working at the Systems Biology Department at Harvard Medical School. He was born in Moscow.
Oh, yeah. That is very interesting. There's also this interesting theme. If we're ready to move into another section, I'd like to connect maybe the theme to this story. And that is this idea of centralization and then decentralization. You can see genome sequencing in its sort of completeness as sort of a centralizing of knowledge about what genes make humans. It's weird. You talk about a composite, which is a collection of decentralized information coming together to centralize to form a full picture, which again we see with pictures of the Earth from space, and now it's revealed everything we've been told about the completion of the human genome is sort of this idea of decentralized information coming together to composite. You got a
yeah, sorry, I was just reading more about this Leon guy real quick here,
right.
and I'm sorry, hold on, I'm trying to do two things at once.
That's okay, don't worry about it.
It says here that in March of 2011, Leon encountered a burglar at his home in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The burglar bit Leon on the wrist before being subdued and entering police custody. Maybe I was going to say, maybe he's got some special genetic stuff going on, and they're like, hey, we need to get this guy out there. He's an actual zombie, the first human full, genome sequenced public open source DNA guy is not human.
Yeah,
that's the conspiracy.
Very interesting.
All right, sorry, continue.
No, and it works with genetics. It works with information. Of course, with blockchain, we see that it works with data and currency. And, there's a very interesting article here that puts it all in a sort of biblical perspective.
Yes, sorry, that was me. That was my cue, wasn't it?
It's got to be biblical.
I don't know why we practice these things. We don't. That's what it is. This is coming from Wired.com. And of course, the version we have here has a paywall.
Yeah,
so give me 1 second to click out of the paywall version. Yeah. There we go. And the headline is, God did the world a favor by destroying Twitter.
Ooh.
Which is very fun.
Did it already? Is Twitter destroyed? I think it still works. I can log in.
No, this is another example of them sort of trying to name it and claim it, bro. Speak it into existence. Make people think Twitter is destroyed, even though some would say that Twitter is better than ever. But okay. God did the world a favor by destroying Twitter. And there's some very interesting elements of mainstream communication here, very interesting elements of secular representation of biblical narrative. There's just some very interesting. I was actually quite impressed with the article.
Yeah.
What did she say?
Coming from an atheist, and traditionally, before you read it, the Tower of Babel narrative in the secular world was presented as sort of the more Gnostic or pagan version of it, or whatever, where it's, God did humanity a disservice by separating languahow. It was a bad guy. He's vengeful. Why doesn't he want people to unite? Right. It's like one of those things.
Sort of like how the serpent helped Eve gain knowledge versus Eve, doing something that was against her best interests.
Right.
In the same way, Tower of Babel is the sort of wrathful demiurge, the Gnostic demiurge,
right.
Carrying out some sort of childlike jealousy.
Right. He's jealous and he's vengeful. Yeah, that whole narrative.
Yeah. So let's get into it here.
Okay.
Quote, happy to talk about it if this is interesting. End quote. Mark Benoif, the founder of Salesforce, texted Elon Musk last spring. He continued opaquely, quote, Twitter conversational OS, the town square for your digital life, end quote. This is how billionaires communicate in slogans, brand identities, and occasional large sums. Yeah, I can back that up. They do talk like that. It's up to everyone else to figure out the details. Quote, well, I don't own it yet, Musk replied. To be fair, he was fielding a lot of text at the moment, but then he did own it. And by winter, the Twitter takeover was a giant, thorny public mess. Whatever magic spell kept people together on the platform seemed to have broken. Interesting. It was like the plot of Encanto without the happy ending. Quote, the graveyard for your digital life.
Did you see Encanto?
I did. I didn't really pay much attention to it, though. Okay. I was basic. Twitter's troubles are due not just to Musk, who appears to be both shooting himself in the foot and cauterizing the wound with his own brand of flamethrower. No, Musk is merely the vehicle. The real reason Twitter lies in ruins is because it was an abomination before God.
Oh.
It was a Tower of Babel.
Whoa!
Yeah.
What is this, a face like the sun video?
Thus, I really do admire the comprehension that this author has and the ability to see the world in this way. We don't necessarily agree on the sentiment behind the article, but he's got I have a lot of fun with the way that he talks about it. So the real reason Twitter lies in ruins is because it was an abomination before God. It was the Tower of Babel. People usually interpret Genesis 11, 1 through 9 as a mythological explanation of why we have so many tribes, so many languages. The story goes that the descendants of Noah were living in Shinar, all speaking one tongue, and decided to build a skyscraper that would let them walk straight into heaven. God went, not in my backyard, and scattered the people. This is interesting, just for a little analysis. The not in my backyard characterization, of course, referring to kind of like white liberals, rich white liberals, and hypocrisy. Yeah. That's what the Noimbys are considered, not in my backyard type of people, is actually in line with the description of the demiurge in Gnosticism. So Gnosticism believed that Yahweh was not the actual God. He was a littler God pretending to be the real big God.
Right.
And Yahweh was jealous and childlike and mean.
Yeah, immature God trying to act all big.
Yeah, an immature God trying to pose as the real God.
Right.
And so this kind of not in my backyard petulism is sort of, I don't know, it parallels that.
Yeah.
Which makes me, which again shows some very interesting insight that this author has. God went not in my backyard and scattered the people, confounding their language. I like to think that God also personally demolished the tower, but that story is apocryphal. Then he references Jubilees 10:26. Yeah. Which means this guy really knows, he's at least really looked into it, because he doesn't quote Jubilees, he just references it, just puts it right there. So this is a guy who thinks like this for sure. God does the wrath thing a lot in the Old Testament, punishing humans who would challenge divine authority. It makes sense to read the story of Babel in that light. But having lived through the past couple decades of the internet, I believe the story carries a different lesson. I'm an atheist, so take this theory with a grain of salt, or maybe even a pillar. God wasn't keeping us out of heaven, smiting us for our arrogance. God was protecting us from ourselves. And I find this so fascinating that he felt the need to give a disclaimer about him being an atheist.
And then talks about how God does things.
And then sort of defending God.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the idea that God was protecting us from ourselves, that's a pretty popular evangelical understanding.
Yeah.
And especially of sin and of a lot of, that's the defense of God's wrath, in the Old Testament, in a lot of churches, is that, look, he's not stopping us because he is a wrathful, vengeful, mean guy. He is, exacting punishment specifically.
He's pruning the flower.
Yeah, sin is not just a mean thing to do against God,
right.
But it is those limits are put for our own good.
Right.
That was the whole idea in the garden. It's for your own good to stay away from the tree. It's for your own good not to commit any number of sins. Especially in the Old Testament, where there's like over 600 different sins that you can commit listed in the Bible, and a lot of them, turns out, are just good advice.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting insight for this Wired author to be defending this idea that God wants to defend us from ourselves, as if it's not the normal way to think about it. Now, of course, maybe calling it typical is not accurate. It may not be typical. A lot of people think of sin as specifically, an act against God for its own sake, and in a way, it is still that. But there's the recognition that staying away from sin is also for our own good, aside from the punishment we get from it. And so, just a side note, he's kind of attacking Christians in this way, in that it's like, don't be like the Christians and think that God is punishing you for no reason. Be like the atheists and think that God loves you and is trying to teach you something. Okay, you weirdo, whatever you say. Every 5 or 6 minutes, going back to the article, someone in the social sciences publishes a PDF with a title like, quote, "Humans 95% happier in small towns, waving at neighbors and eating sandwiches. When we gather in groups of more than, say, 8, it's a disaster." Interesting choice, 8, because it's like there's 8 people on the ark, on Noah's Ark.
I think that's what it was referencing.
It kind of seems that way. Yeah. Yet there is something fundamental in our nature that desperately wants to get everyone together in one big room to, quote, "solve it." Our smarter, richer, betters, in Babel times, the king's name was Nimrod, often preach the idea of a town square. This is interesting. The author, referring to like tech billionaires in Silicon Valley and leaders of that ilk as Nimrod, which is, hey, we have that in common. We kind of also would call them Nimrod in a way. Often preach the idea of a town square, a marketplace of ideas, a central hub of discourse and entertainment, and we listen. But when I go back and read Genesis, I hear God saying, quote, "My children, I designed your brains to scale to 150 stable relationships. Anything beyond that is overclocking. You should all try Mastodon." Just funny. Mastodon is the alternative to Twitter that is decentralized. Yeah. So people are fleeing the tower by millions, or at least shopping the real estate elsewhere. Discord, TikTok, Tumblr, YouTube, Instagram, WeChat, Weibo, Moj, and some are finding their tribes in the Fediverse, the set of decentralized web apps that includes Mastodon. The Fediverse is, by design, thousands of servers in many languages. They are cheap to run, at least for small groups. We've considered doing a Canary Cry Fediverse. And relatively easy to administer. You can chat among your server kin, or blog, or podcast, or share images and videos and connect with servers in the outside world. The Fediverse apps are all built on a set of rules called the ActivityPub Standard, which is a little like HTML had sex with a calendar invite. It's a little Nephilim there, a little coder.
Two kinds.
2023 Nephilim combination. Mm-hmm. It's a content polycule. The question it evokes are the same as with any polycule. What are the rules? How big can this get? Who will create the chore chart? The true beauty of Mastodon and similar services is that they are designed to collapse. If you want to quit a server, you can take all your followers and follows with you. If a server shuts off, you can find another. It's not one guy. It accepts that as we centralize and debate, we melt down. And so it comes with a giant sticker that reads, Babel built in. Interesting, huh?
Yep.
As the world is rooting for the destruction of Twitter, aka, following this guy's logic, the Tower of Babel of modern times, and rooting for decentralization, not just of money and cryptocurrency, but of
town
places
square.
we gather.
Yeah.
Digital gathering places. The alternative, being Mastodon or the Fediverse, has a sticker called Babel built in, meaning when this gets too big, we will destruct it. It will destruct itself, or God will destruct it. Who knows? How will these smaller groups of happier people be monetized? This is a tough question for the billionaires. Happy people, the kind who eat sandwiches together, are boring. They don't buy much. Their smartphones are 6 versions behind and have badly cracked screens. They fix bicycles, and when they talk, then they talk about fixing bicycles. Then they show their friend, who just came over for no reason, how they fixed their bicycle. And their friend says, wow, good job. And they make tea. That doesn't seem like enough to build a town square on.
It sounds like this guy's been watching some people.
It's got a real imagination.
Yeah.
But someone will figure out the details. The reason the Babel story matters is not that it happened once, but that it happens over and over. We Babelize and de-Babelize. The internet is an engine of both processes. Eventually, brands will find purchase in Mastodon's rocky soil, another allusion to a parable by Jesus, and grow engagement. Engagement, in this case, replacing the word gospel from the parable. It's fun.
That's what corporations want.
Yeah. Billionaires will order the construction of new marketplaces of ideas. Everything will centralize again, and it will seem eternal, as if the tower could never fall. For now, let's enjoy the scattering. What an interesting fella this guy is. Yeah. And I got to say, I find it hard to disagree with his sentiment in this article. What do you think?
Yeah, I was impressed. My initial reaction was being impressed by an atheist actually applying, or at least taking the Babel story, the Tower of Babel story, and accurately reflecting on it. Of course, he does it in his own way to make it his own thing with the the anti-Twitter sentiment, but this general idea of
thoughtful use of the biblical narratives,
right? To explain this idea of something of centralization and decentralization, the repetitious nature of it, because we are clearly in a decentralized revolution right now. I think that's why even maybe Elon's playing the God role there. He's like, no, well, centralizing is bad. He basically said at the beginning of the show, the Tower of Babel is no good. We must stay, diversified in case something happens. So, yeah, the phenomenon you and I have seen it coming for a long time, because the terminology comes out of the crypto world, decentralized, blockchain, whatever, all that kind of stuff. But truly, the reason why cryptos became so popular in the last few years is because it presented a narrative of, hey, everything we do online, all this digital infrastructure is way too centralized.
Yeah.
So very few people control everything. And the honest truth is that a lot of crypto projects, companies, whatever, they are also relying heavily on centralized products and services. There's a lot of
trying to decentralize with a centralized mindset.
Yeah,
that's what the whole idea behind Web 3.0 is. You have all of these active technocrats or futurists or technologists or whatever, pushing towards mass decentralization, decentralizing everything,
right?
Versus Web 2.0, which was mass centralization.
Yeah.
So, applying the Babel narrative to the internet as a cycle of centralizing and decentralizing, I think is intellectually rigorous. I think it stands up. But I have a hard time thinking that anybody without an intimate relationship with the Bible, having this article having an effect on them might be besides the point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's just a step away from acknowledging God's judgment upon things.
Right.
It is interesting because he's sort of using it as an example, but he's also saying that it's kind of built in. It's part of the motherboard of everything, is that there's this ebb and flow built in. I don't know. It seems to me that, and part of this is maybe my own filtering of this guy, but I've noticed that a lot of secularists, atheists, are struggling to maintain a type of hard atheism that was popular 20 years ago, maybe.
Right.
Because philosophically, technologically, even scientifically, we're starting to it's that Jasper, I can't remember the guy's name. The quote about the scientists scaling the mountaintops and then reaching the peak, and theologians are sitting there for centuries. It's this idea that we've kind of been seeing the world the way that the Bible says it is, and the scientists are kind of running out of room of like, well, simulation theory. It's the world is a computer, and it's like, well, maybe there's a programmer then. It's like, well, no, because multiverse. It's like they're running out of. They don't know where to go with it. So at least they're starting to embrace maybe some of the principles that are involved in some of the more fringier parts of the Bible, including the Tower of Babel, which is a big part of the whole biblical narrative. People don't. The people in church don't know enough about it. I think in general, they don't know enough about it. It's
basically a chapter 2 of the creation narrative.
Yeah,
and it's literally like the second thing that happens after.
Yeah, and Jesus talking about, as it were in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. Noah lived 350 years after the flood.
Right.
He was around when the Tower of Babel stuff was happening. It's only 2 or 3 generations from Noah that Nimrod pops up. And also, the Bible talks about Nimrod becoming a Gibborim, a mighty man.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, well, what did he do? What did he do to become a Gibborim? The same word Gibborim is used in Genesis 6 of the Nephilim. So, they were the Gibborim. So, I don't know. Some interesting things there. They're almost there. These atheists, they will be ranting about the Nephilim soon enough.
It kind of goes back to the age of reenchantment with Carl Teichgrip.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a reenchantment, in this case, of tech reporting, which has been a fairly unenchanting
here's the other thing.
industry for some time.
Face Like the Sun and the Canary Cry stuff, we've been talking about the Tower of Babel in the sort of eschatological, technological context for so long that, and I know we're not the only ones doing it, but this author must have been presented with some type of similar material to at least get that idea.
Another example of the Illuminati tuning into the show.
He's just stealing our ideas. There you go. All right.
Are
you ready to
let's
take a break?
keep moving. Yeah, let's take a break and see some art.
Break.
This is a break. Don't just consume the content, but become the content. Become the content. All right, we're going to take a quick break to thank our producers who come in with their God-given talent. You get value out of the program, which will always be free. Provide value back by helping us build the culture behind the community here at Canary Cry News Talk. All we ask is that you make it about the show. We're going to start off with a speak pipe.
Please leave a message after the tone.
At the tone, please record your message.
Leave a message. Beep.
Message.
You go to canarycrynewstalk.com and look for a green little button tab thing on the right side or the bottom. Click on it. It'll give you a little pop-up that allows you to record a message of up to 90 seconds, a minute and a half. And it gives us the ability to listen to it and perhaps play it on the show. We have one today from Davy Frost.
This one is called Psalm of a Grafted Twig. Why, oh why, do you love me so, when my flesh carries me to and fro? And with a loving hand you lead me slow to the truth of what I ask to know, causing my love for you to grow. For what is this man but a child with a beard, ignoring the one I should have feared? Yet to you is the direction I am steered, still filled with obstacles the path is cleared. A daily walk with you is what I need, nourished by words that I should heed, called to be a special breed, and eternal death from which I'm freed. It's in the details that I see your unrelenting grace for me. The times it all works perfectly, a token only I can see. Why, oh why, is your love so big for this dried out, broken little twig?
Ah, very nice. Thank you, Davy Frost.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Great job.
Good stuff. Appreciate it. Okay, I think that's the only speak pipe we have. We do have audio production.
Audio production.
Got something from Little Owen. We're not going to play the whole thing right now. It's about 1:52, but it is titled Earth-Centric or Helio. Here's a little bit of it. Very nice. I like it.
Yeah, that's sick. We'll play the whole thing at the end of the show. Wonderful job.
Yeah, thank you, Little Owen. I didn't see a note with it, but appreciate the track. Very nice. Okay, we're going to do art.
One art, please.
And we do have one. It is from Sir Dove, Knight of Raspeltia.
One art, please, from Dove.
And the note reads as follows. Actually, we have two. Oh, no, actually, it's one. Peace. For today's artwork, I made a merit badge for any Canarian out there who produces 100 episodes of art. Should have checked with her first and don't want to embarrass her, but I thought having Dame Allie drawing at her desk would be a perfect illustration for the badge. The Holy Spirit was nudging me for a while to make some art for the show, but it was Dame Allie's dedication that made me want to be like her and not miss producing an episode. I really owe a lot to Allie. And just wanted to give her some praise.
We all
Hope
do.
you guys like it. Keep doing what you do. I'll keep praying for you.
Yeah, wow, how special. Thank you, Sir Dove.
Yeah.
And we have here the circular merit badge design here. It says Allie Art Badge across the top and the bottom. And the image has a young Dame Allie of the Skillet Nation sitting at her desk with a Canary Cry News Talk hoodie on, a Skillet hat on. In the background, you've got posters of samurai Gons and Gons with the Wind. We've got virtual reality helmet with googly eyes up on a shelf. Canary Cry News Talk mug. We've got the calendar, the Canary Cry calendar hanging up. Her computer is pulled up to Gonza's samurai baseball chopping video and by Sir Dove. She's sitting at her desk drawing a picture for the show. This is very cool. And yes, I could not agree with you more, Sir Dove. That's very special.
Very nice. Yes. Thank you very much. And I'm sure Dame Allie would be okay with it, especially it's a canary form. So, you know.
Yes, of course. No, I think Allie should know how impactful she's been to the show.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Sir Dove and Dame Allie. We miss you, Dame Allie. Okay, so it is time for a microfiction. Is that right?
Yeah.
Microfiction.
Time.
Oh, yes.
Microfiction.
We did have one. I know we were missing one. The Runk Smash microfiction has arrived.
Yep, got it. It is. It's right there from Runk Smash.
Runk Smash.
Acting quickly, the chaplain turns the IV pump to send the DMT into the system. He's now protected by the techno-shaman laws and put his hands in the air knowing what's coming. The door splinters as a yellow and blue quadruped serves its warrant. That is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Thank you, Runk Smash. Well done.
Thank you, Runk Smash. We have one more from Stefan S.
Q&A session with Chief at Davos. Are you saying we don't have technology to disrupt brain waves as alleged in the Havana Syndrome incident? Well, num 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 num.
I like how your cat jumped on your shoulder as you were going num 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 num
Num num num. Yes, the cat is. I had a soft spot, and I let the cat stay in the office, and he's been very cuddly today.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's it for the art and the producers coming in with their talent. Thank you very
Wonderfully
much. Wonderfully
done. Yes, thank you very much. And if you're a creative person out there, you can contribute to the show. It's easy. Just create something for the show and head on over to canarycry.art. You'll find a form where you can upload it. That's the way to do it, folks. Thank you very much. I think it's time to finish out the show, huh?
It's cold, Basil. It's cold. Antarctica, go first.
Snowstorm. Antarctica. Ice scientists are penguins.
Antarctica, they're opening the abyss.
Eye-watering cost of celebrities Antarctica super yacht trip. Dun dun dun.
Whoa, super yacht trip.
Super yacht trip.
Who's on the super yacht?
Well, we'll find out. I think it was especially relevant, this article, for a lot of reasons. We've been noting the celebritization of Antarctica. Antarctica is sort of its own celebrity now. It's, the place where no wars are allowed. It's the place with all the resources that everybody wants. It's the coolest place you can take a vacation. It's the coolest place where you can die on a boat if you take a vacation.
Great for kids.
It's the place where the science is being done that's going to save us from ourselves. It's the place. It's everything. Antarctica is its own celebrity, and like any good celebrity, it must mingle with other celebrities. Yes. Let's talk about it now. The eye-watering cost of celebrities' Antarctica super yacht trip. Lewis Hamilton, Shaun White, Nina Dobrev, Zoe Dutch, and Jared Leto are among a group of celebrities who kicked off the new year cruising around Antarctica. Photos and videos the stars posted on social media showed the group on a luxury super yacht posing with penguins and snowboarding. It has since been revealed how much the trip approximately cost, leaving shocked fans unable to comprehend what it would be like to be so wealthy. And you've got a picture here of just a bunch of celebrities.
Put on some clothes, lady.
I can't recognize a single one of them, but they're all in tuxedos.
I think Shaun White's
dresses.
on the far left there. I recognize him.
Okay. And yes, they look like a bunch of celebrities having fun in Antarctica. The super yacht used was the Octopus, built for the late Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen. The 126-meter vessel. Meters? Oh my gosh.
126 meters? That is
bigger than a football field.
Humongous.
Is one of the world's largest yachts. No kidding. Octopus, listed for sale for 235 million euros, that's $362 million, was sold to Swedish billionaire Roger Samuelsson in 2021 and is available for charter via Mayfair-based yacht broker Camper & Nicholson from $2.2 million per week.
Wow.
Yeah. $2.2 million a week. That's pretty good. The yacht has 8 decks, sleeps 12 guests, and has 2 helipads. You can park 2 helicopters on this thing. Gym, spa, cinema, library, pool, basketball court, and underwater observational lounge. The American TikToker, an American TikToker, of course it's TikTok, did a deep dive on the trip, estimating it to be worth $3.49 million. Oh, sorry, that's euros. No. Yeah, what? Why does it say US?
Yeah, they switched it. They switched it.
I think that's 3.49 euros. Yeah. And then $5 million US, including tips and other expenses. And one couple's flights from Los Angeles. This only included the cost of hiring the yacht for 1 week. According to Instagram, the famous group were in Antarctica for at least 3 weeks, meaning the trip could have cost triple the amount. So they're estimating $15 million. Ben Keenan, who runs the I've Been Traveling account, posted this video on Monday, attracting hundreds of comments. Then they have a bunch of really boring comments, but so here's one. So do these people just Venmo each other $300K or what? Wrote one woman. I swear we truly don't understand how rich people actually are. Stuck somewhere between, dang, I want to be rich, and eat the rich, one person joked. I cannot imagine living like that. Like what? Another added. One curious person. Want to know how much money they spend yearly just on vacation expenses. Some suggested Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton, who Forbes reported to have made $65 million US. That's not true. They have this mixed up. That's okay. Last year, across contracts and sponsorships, would have shouted the trip. What does that mean? Hamilton celebrated his 38th birthday on January 7th. Quote, it's a great... Oh, here's the fun part. Here's a quote from this Hamilton guy. It's a great way to start the year. The most beautiful place I've ever seen. Or equal tie with Africa. Said in a video. Look at that view out there. Super grateful. So, longtime followers of our Antarctica theories will find this to be a little interesting. Of course, we have the celebritization of Antarctica. We've got celebrities touting the qualities of Antarctica. We've had the tagline "Back to Antarctica" come up in the mainstream, which is a parallel tagline to the very famous "Back to Africa" tagline, which is a Afrofuturist sort of rallying cry, as well as a Rastafarian one. And as we look as futurologists, Gons, and we've seen the mainstream media messaging about Africa and how the future is in Africa, the techno future is in Africa. Everybody agrees Africa is the future, and this is done with a very, pro-social justice-y, we're going to save Africa from itself, make it a homeland again to people who are descendants of Africans. In the same way, we've seen messaging for Antarctica, where, black people can thrive in Africa. White people will be able to thrive in Antarctica, the great white desert. When the world ends and everything goes to hell, all the rich white liberals will be flocking to Africa as the great white utopia. So to have this celebrity say Antarctica equal tie with Africa has this very interesting connotation of just how woke he is.
It's weird that we made that observation and then it comes out and we find it in this obscure article about celebrities. I am a little weirded out. There's a photo here of Nina Dobrev, Jared Leto, and Zoe Douche. Mm-hmm. And Jared Leto, wasn't he Dr. Morbius?
Yes.
Yeah. So Dr. Morbius, don't get cat.
This cat keeps
the cat just crawling on you.
Straight up onto the back of my chair and crawling over my shoulder. I think he's just trying to show off how athletic he is.
I think Dr. Morbius was harvesting penguin pineal glands
Yeah, notable vampire utopia, Antarctica.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we talked about the giant penguins, the Nephilim penguins. A lot of blood. You can harvest out of those big 350-pound, 5'2" Nephilim penguins.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't like that. And he's the 30 Seconds to Mars guy. I mean, this guy is.
He is who he is.
He is.
Yeah. No,
he is who he is.
It's very interesting to have this be, a story at all, and to having it originate on a popular TikTok is very interesting, because we know
it's
TikTok
boosted.
is more people go to TikTok for news and stuff about the world than anywhere else now. To be using TikTok, a Chinese-owned company, the Chinese starting their resource collection projects in Antarctica, and also building a naval base at Ushuaia, which is the fastest way for Americans to get to Antarctica. I'm sure they hit the big red boost button on TikTok to make this Antarctic celebrity advertisement.
Because normally nowadays, or at least more recently, when the mainstream talked about celebrities and how much money they were spending on something, it was always in the context of like, oh, you're corporate, it's not positive. But for the first time in a while, it's like, oh, look at these celebrities, look at them spending their money, and oh my goodness. It's like a weird return to like the what's, I don't know what the word is, the glamorizing, or the sort of indulging in the opulence of it all. It's just an interesting callback to before the eco stuff got really, the billionaires riding private jets kind of criticisms. It's not there in the story because they're going to Antarctica. That's the only reason why.
When did you ever hear of actors, actresses, celebrities going to Antarctica? And when they did, it was billed as, wow, they're so brave, they're so adventurous.
Right.
And in this case, it's, no, get a bunch of your buddies. Each of you can pay, $300,000 or whatever, get 12 of you, and then just take a luxury vacation and enjoy yourself. It's not an adventure. It's not dangerous. It's a luxury vacation spot is what it is.
Have as many penguin pineal glands as you want. And you brought up Ushuaia. And speaking of which, just real quick here, this is food and wine being mirrored on Yahoo Life, and the headline is heading to Antarctica. Don't skip the gin distillery in the Falkland Islands. So there's only one place you can try a gin that uses ingredients once collected as a sample by Charles Darwin.
Whoa.
During his stint in the Falklands in 1833.
Ooh.
Antarctica is one of the hottest. I just think it's funny. Antarctica is one of the hottest and coldest destinations for intrepid travelers these days, offering a rare glimpse of the extremes found at the planet's poles, replete with all the glaciers, penguins, seals, whales, and boundless pristine beauty you can handle.
I don't know if I agree with the Falkland Islands being a part of Antarctica.
Not to mention all of that delightful craft gin. Wait, what? The Falkland Islands, home to some 3,300 human residents and several 100,000 sheep. Wait a minute. Are they saying that
sheep?
There are like hundreds of thousands of people on there, but they're just calling most of them sheep. What's going on? And plays host to one of the world's most southernmost and remote craft distilleries, Falkland Island Distillers. The distillery produces a lineup of gins evocative of their special place on the planet, the British Overseas Territory, consisting of 778 islands found 300 miles off of Argentina's Patagonian coastline. And it gets into some of the history here. It's gin. And it's you can get Darwin's Botanicals gin.
Yeah, I know. You were pretty excited about that. I'm not 100% sure why.
The experience.
You're 40 years old now. You're a 40-year-old millennial. You have to be enthusiastic about gin.
This is just wait. The experience of drinking Mickey's gins is very much that of pouring the incredible environs of the Falkland Islands into your glass. Quote, it reminds me of the fresh air with the smell of grass and the wet ground that you can find while walking around the Falklands, says Elliot Favre. A bartender on a recent Abercrombie and Kent holiday voyage to the Falklands, South Georgia, and Antarctica aboard the Pennant L'Arial. The cruise makes its final stop at the Falkland Islands before sailing further afield, offering passengers a last glimpse, and in this case, last taste of civilization before sailing down into Antarctic waters. These cruises are a lifeblood for business in the Falklands. And it goes on and on here, and it's got a picture of it. So it's the last place you can load up on your alcohol before you go into Antarctic waters. I think it'll become a hub.
That's your booze run.
This is our exit strategy. We set up shop right there with something else, not gin, but something else.
I've been to the Falkland Islands.
Oh my,
how I mentioned this. I've been to the Falkland Islands. It's not Antarctica. It's a famous place. Britain had a war with Argentina there. They fought vociferously over the Falkland Islands. In fact, the Falkland Islands were fought over so brutally that there are big fields there they're everywhere that still have landmines that you're not allowed to walk on. There's a lot of land.
They need to deploy the robots.
Some crazy number of landmines are still active in the Falkland Islands, and it's not unheard of for like penguins to go stumbling, or puffins or something to go stumbling across them. So a little bit of a war-torn area, but those Brits, they just needed some sort of cold, lonely place to make gin. That's sort of what the Brits love to do. They like to go to a place where it's rainy and gray and make and drink gin. That's sort of their specialty.
Well, I mean,
and they fought a very bloody war over it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is off the tail, the coast there, the southern tip, South America. So certainly, I mean, it's not really a direct sort of path
some
to
consider
Antarctica.
it to be. Some consider it to be a part of Antarctica.
That's interesting.
I think technically they call it part of Antarctica, but it's so far away. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. All right, everybody. We're going to send Gons down to try some gin and look for some minefields down there. Not a good combination.
Not sound like a good combo. That sounds like a one-way trip.
And speaking of one-way trips, we are at the end of this trip, Gons. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the show, for listening, for watching. Everything you do for us makes us feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and we could not do without you. Thank you again to our executive producers, Sir Marty, Knight of the Wrong Timeline, and executive producer Tammy C. And all of our producers, whether you come in with your talent or your finances, or if you help us out with your time. Let's thank some producers who devote their time to some very important pieces of keeping this show going, starting with our Clippies.
Clippy on those videos. Thanks.
Tomorrow, the Canary Cry Clips channel is off suspension on YouTube. So that's fun. In celebration, head on over to Canary Cry Clips on YouTube or Odyssey and give that channel a follow. And while you're there, drop a line to Faye Liverin and Ensworth for keeping it going and clipping the show. Making our social media clips is really a huge deal, and we appreciate them both for it. But yes, Canary Cry Clips is almost back on the roster.
Right.
And thank you to our timestampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
Yep, our timestampers, very important crew. They timestamp the show so we can have references for all sorts of very important back-end processes. Thank you to Jade Bouncerson for timestamping episode 590.
Thank you.
Very important. And if you're interested in helping out with the timestamp, send us an email, canarycryradio@gmail.com. Thank you to our social media gal.
Social media. Follow us.
Social media consultant.
Thanks so much.
Dame Miss G and the OV in the deep rivers, making sure the art gets up on the social media. Appreciate it, Dame Miss G. Thank you very much.
Did she have balloons or fake UFO psyop on the bingo card this year?
I don't know. I don't have it up. I doubt it. I don't think we have a bingo card for this year.
Maybe we don't have one this
year. I mean, we could still review. We got to review I can't believe that didn't stick as much as we thought it would. But we could always revisit. Go to canarycrimemeetups.com.
Canary Cry Meetups. Now the jingle goes.
Canary Cry Meetup.
Go to canarycrimemeetups.com. The meetups are starting to roll, people. Don't miss your chance to meet up with Canarians just like you. Sharing a podcast experience is one of the most important ways that you can bond with another individual. One of the greatest signals of that you might have things in common. So no matter where you are, put on a meetup. Go to canarycrimemeetups.com. You can see the meetups coming up. The 18th, I think it's Saturday, is the Passau, Germany meetup. You can get all the details over there at canarycrimemeetups.com. I know we had a couple people email us and ask questions about it, so I hope that you got in contact with Mr. Jag. You can find the contact there at canarycrimemeetups.com. There's also the Alaska meetup from Nomen Punte. It's the 3rd of March, 3:33 p.m. Alaska Standard Time, Eagle River, Alaska. Get in contact with sbboh@hotmail.com to get more info. And like I said, put one on yourself, folks. If there's not one near you, there's some pretty remote meetups going on right now. The ones on the list, we do have a Florida meetup coming up in March as well. Waiting for the details there. But Alaska and Germany are the current meetups. Pretty remote. So let's see if there's anybody a little bit more centered on the homeland here. Let's put on some meetups. All right, canarycrimemeetups.com. We'll see you there.
Oops.
This is fun! See you at the meetup.
Ratings and reviews is very helpful. Let me give you some inspiration since you're listening to the show right now on Apple Podcasts. You can go ahead and leave one. Just click the review button and give it 5 stars and say something like this. Canary Cry News Talk. It'll change your life and the lives of your descendants for generations to come. I demand to be satisfied. Go listen to the show. That's just an example of what you could leave if you were perhaps someone who wanted my love and affection. You could just copy and paste that right in there and leave a rating and a review. But whatever you do, it helps us. Ratings and reviews helps us out so much, and is one of our only ways that we are able to fight back in the algo wars. Help us out with some ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. And other than that, thank you, Jam, for the links. Thank you, Jam, for the links. Thank you, Clank, for the assistance. And share the show, folks. Share it with your friends, your family. This is what a great way to bring people together. The fight is not over. Just because we're not in the midst of COVID anymore doesn't mean that people aren't waking up to the fact that the mainstream news does not have their best interests in mind. Now is your time to share the show. You can do it in creative ways if you want. You don't have to do it in the regular way. I mean, I hope you do post it on your social media and talk to your friends about it. But also, perhaps you're some sort of rail car traveling vagabond with a bindle on your shoulder and a hole in your boots, just enjoying the free life of riding the rails, the old-fashioned of the Americana vagabond. That could be you, and while you're doing it, why don't you go ahead and start... Don't do this. Don't vandalize trains, folks. Trains, they're the lifeblood of this country. The trains are very important to everything. So we need to start defending these trains is what we need to do. Start a train derailment defense squad. And we're very suspicious about the possible eco-terrorist implications of all these train derailments, truck crashes, tank explosions, and it's about time that we take things into our own hands by letting people know that Canary Cry News Talk supports trains. That's right. We are happy to stand up and make our opinions heard that we don't want trains to crash. I know it's a pretty revolutionary idea nowadays, but we gotta die on some hill, guns. Perhaps this is the one. We have bucked the system. We reject the social norms of our day, and in so doing, declare our support for keeping the trains on the tracks. So if you know anybody who agrees with us, you should share the show with them. They would very much enjoy it. If you need any more instructions, we call it rattling cages. And all you got to do is walk right up to them, grab by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Gons, any last words?
Is it possible that your cat stepped on some keys and deleted certain things on a certain document?
Yeah, that's totally possible.
Okay, because one of our documents that helps us with timestamps has been completely demolished, and I cannot access it anymore.
Oh, the timestamps? Probably not the timestamps, no.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll deal with it after.
All right. There you go.
All right.
Sad way to end the show. Sorry.
That's okay. You don't have anything else? Just that? Just
well, no. Today is the USS Maine incident anniversary from 1898.
Oh, that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Canary Cry calendar, folks. Get it. Join the supply drop. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
Armageddon's on the way.
He's a Satanist from one of the Satanist churches here where they sacrifice babies.
It will kill.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
We will hunt you down and make you pay.
twisted pleasure that I have.
It's okay.
Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint
catcher.
I love it, man.
Hey, you gotta clean this out. I was like, a lint catcher. It's a great reset. A lint catcher.
I love it, man.
Hey, you gotta clean this out. A lint catcher.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love peeling off that big old lint trap, rolling it into a ball, peeling off that big old lint trap. Just like throwing it in the trash, really. Should I be saving this?
No.
You could knit it into a scarf or something?
No.
Surely. It's very soft.
No.
This would make a really good fire starter. You are a weird prepper. Hoarder. Like a weird guy, man. Weird prepper. Not normal, like a weird guy, man. Clearing out that lint trap.
No.
Clearing out that lint trap. Clearing out that lint trap. That lint trap. I know it's gross, folks.
A lint catcher.
I love it, man.
Hey, you gotta clean this out. I was like, a lint catcher. It's a great reset. A lint catcher.
I love it, man.
Hey, you gotta clean this out. A lint catcher.
I love that. It doesn't work. I am constantly having to remind myself, wear a pink shirt for the show. Constantly having to remind myself, save the dryer lint, use it as fire starter, knit a scarf, save the dryer lint.
Goodbye, everybody. And that's the end. And everyone says, oh, that was fun. Bye. I'm out of here. Bye.
CanaryCryRadio.com/support